You'd want to unmute that and then talk.
Hi, come here. Hey, see if you can get that plastic cap is not meant to come off. See if you can get some pliers or something, get it off so I can put it in my caps.
Hey, Charles, are you on the call with us already?
I'm here, Eric.
All right. So the question was posed, are you moderating or am I? I'm not sure if you had the controls or if you would just kind of give me a sit rep of what you'd like to do.
I'd like to let you do the driving.
Okie dokie. So I guess if you would make me moderator
I just made you the host, Eric.
or the host. Yeah. Do we
Yeah.
have a moderator? Do we have somebody moderating?
No.
Charles, would you be willing to assist me in the moderation of the call, please, sir?
I'll do what I can. I'm not real super familiar with the controls and things.
Okay. Well, I of course we're gonna try and have Robert's rules. But if someone were to not be able to be brought into order, we'd like to be able to just mute their mic. Are you capable of doing
I can do
doing
that.
on your end?
I can do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Yep.
All right. It looks like we've got just a few more minutes. Nope, we're on. Okay. Let's see here.
As I look at the participants window, I can see it does look like I've got a few controls. I'm not sure if I'm fully empowered here, but it does. I'm willing to do my best here, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Charles. I think Lynn and you together, we ought to be able to maintain order.
Yep. Charles, I
that
made Eric the host, and I don't see an option to make you the co-host, so I can always take him off of host and make you host if we need to.
Very good. Yes.
Y'all just tell me what you need.
Okay, thank you. We'll just try and run with what we've got right now. So thank you everybody for joining us. I haven't been on the call in a little while. We've been very, very, very busy. So I want to start the call with, of course, you know, I would say let's do the Bivens decision, but really not too worried about people listening in. Those of you that do have that reservation, I can assure you that as long as I'm here breathing, you probably don't have anything to be concerned about, because I'm probably going to be the biggest target in the room, which I'm proud to be. You know, that's what I stepped up for. That's what we're all here for, right? Is we're all willing to bear the burden of restoring our glorious republic. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. And so I want to give a little bit of an update. Is Ryan, are you on the call with us yet? Let's see here.
I don't see him yet.
Okay.
Would you folks give me the right? Would you go, folks, give me the right to record, please? I sent the request. I don't know if you
I did.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
We're recording.
Yep.
Perfect.
We are too.
All right. Very good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just get going. And when Ryan catches up, he'll catch up. We are recording so we can all go back and see what we missed, if anything. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to give just a little bit of background over what's been happening in 2024 to help show the picture that is glaringly obvious that all Americans need to be aware of. So in the start of 2024, it started to become glaringly apparent that in 2023, we had the upper hand, that the cabal was having some issues. And some of the data points that led to this conclusion was, one, the World Monetary Fund, the WEF, they came out with a hashtag rebuilding the trust. And to those of us that are in the know, that has a double entendre. Of course, they want the people to trust them, but they're also referring to the world trusts that control our wealth. Our wealth has been removed from us as a people, and that is in the process of currently being restored. And so that's okay. So that is why we're here today. So whenever we got into 2024, it became known to all that the replacement migration that the UN was so gracious in writing a book about had begun here in the States. In fact, it was pretty apparent that it might even be almost done because the people were showing up in our workforce. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. So I and a gentleman by the name of Scott went out into the field to do a little bit of investigation on our own. And what prompted this was reports that there was a lot of activity happening at the Texas border with the removal of barbed wire and the incursion of federal troops with National Guard potentially from Texas State Guard, and Department of Public Safety. So whenever we arrived in Eagle Pass, we saw nothing of the sort. In fact, we spoke directly with the National Guardsmen that were guarding the gates to Sutton Park, I believe, or Sutter Park, which is the park that was closed off for the supposed encampment. There was a lot of activity there, but not the type of activity that you would expect in this situation. And we recorded all of this evidence. We drove along the border wall of Texas, and once you get on the other side of Eagle Pass, it starts to become sporadic where the wall's at, and there's very little construction. In fact, in the Del Rio sector, one of the things that we noticed is a lot of construction taking place of the wall. And it's unfortunate because we have Americans that own property in America that are being placed on the other side of the wall. And we also have evidence of that. We drove right down their street, and they're going to be on the other side. In fact, we were on the other side of the wall on this road. It was a very interesting situation. We arose to the destination that we were looking for very early in the morning, and there was no one present, and there were gaping holes in the wall. And this is Del Rio, which is a very common crossing point for illegal migration. So because there was no one present, it was safe to assume that there could be people that cross at leisure with no monitoring taking place whatsoever. The smart technology that's deployed along the border for monitoring the migration is very sparse and almost a joke, really, just to even see it where it is. Only in a few places did they look like they were actually taking it seriously. So as we moved west through New Mexico, we came to a place where we saw that New Mexico had their gate complete, but they didn't have border patrol, at least not very many. What they had were private security forces that were protecting the border in New Mexico. We were accosted by a couple, and they were not friendly. They were not cordial. They have no respect for Americans, even though they are Americans. So New Mexico is a very interesting situation, being a blue state and having its wall complete, but with the caveat of the fact that there's gates everywhere. In fact, in all of the Trump wall, there's gates, huge gates, big enough for tanks to come through side by side. And on some of these gates, there's no locks. Someone could just simply reach their hand through, lift the lever, and off they go. And of course, we have all of this evidenced on tape. Then further into Arizona, we started to notice encampments that were set up by Border Patrol and non-governmental agencies that were, or organizations that were housing and caring for migrants as they came across the border into Arizona. Then we started to see what was referred to as the Obama wall and the Biden wall. To get over. It's really kind of a joke in and of itself, and it's only about 10 feet tall. The Biden wall is a bunch of palisades that are scattered through the desert with a piece of barbed wire strung across the top of them. And I just say that jokingly because of his desire to want to protect our border. It's very, I feel, I feel a little humor with that one. But so these camps that are set up, they sometimes have Border Patrol agents there that are actually coordinating and putting people on buses. We actually tracked those buses after our investigation. We found some busing companies that were actually bringing them deeper into the United States. Then we started to notice them showing up in airports and tented off little sections. We've been hearing about the Darien Gap from people like Michael Yawn and Ann Vandersteel and the like, and it matches up with what's happening here. And so we finally made it to Ucumba, California. And then in Ucumba, the Border Patrol was kind enough to actually point us in directions so that we could see what we needed to see. In fact, we had a large group of military-age males and females march past us, and many of them were actually European, African, and Chinese, and Middle Easterners, and even some South Americans. And what we were able to ascertain is that based on the information that had been collected through the Heritage Foundation, Michael Yawn, and several other investigators that have been doing a lot of heavy lifting in this area, that there is approximately 24 million men and women that have crossed the border since this incursion on our southern border began. And out of that 24 million, it is quite likely that between 18 and 20 million of those men and women are actually fighting age men that didn't come with families. And the reason that we've been able to put these data points together and draw this conclusion is because since 2004, I've been monitoring the movements of UN armor and vehicles and things like that, armaments coming into our country and being housed throughout. There's been a lot of talk about police departments having basements that have other uniforms, other helmets, other equipment so that they can change into UN uniforms. There's a planned exercise for this month that involves the UN working with law enforcement and National Guard to suppress domestic uprisings. So all this has been taking place in the background. And so it's created a hotbed for us. And so that was back in February, going into the 1st of March, when I returned to Tennessee. Then I went back out again this past month, and I drove again down the I-40, I-10 corridor, this time not going directly to the border because I was on my way to meetings in Arizona. And what we encountered was a large amount of military equipment movement. I mean, like really surprising movements, like trucks full of equipment that are designated for special forces operations. There was a lot of foreign European armor that was on rail car. Once we got into Texas, off of I-40, we encountered 3 UN troops that were still partially uniformed in their shopping for their groceries for the evening. I'm 100% sure that they were UN because they were still wearing their native uniforms and speaking their native tongue. Then as we traveled south in Texas to the Austin area, we encountered several convoys moving on the back roads with armor and equipment, supply trains of trailers that would be used for generating power and cleaning water and things like that. Then as we left the Austin area, headed west towards New Mexico, we encountered Polish ambulances and convoy with UN lights and markings on their vehicle. And as we passed them, they even waved to us. You know, it was real cute. And then as we went further into Texas, going into El Paso, we had a lot of traffic of military vehicles being moved. All of these vehicles that were being moved, except for the Polish ambulances, don't have markings on them yet. What we eventually discovered just outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico, is a supply depot and motor pool, and a large FEMA camp that's been put up on the west side of the county holding facility, the detention center. The supply depot had a large amount of the FEMA camp tents that we're also familiar with from hurricanes and things like that. And these tent structures are all on the west sides of these buildings, and and encompass a large area, maybe a quarter to half an acre on both areas. They could house a large number of men. And then the motor pool is also quite large. And this motor pool has some pretty serious equipment in it. 10 personnel carriers, MRADs, armored Humvees, you name it, the lot. And it's very apparent that this is a supply depot for UN forces. As we moved west, we continued to notice the movement of these things going into Arizona. And then we were invited to sit down at the table with what is referred to as one of the trustees of the global wealth. And to be quite honest, until I sat down at that table, just so everybody knows where I've been, I thought all that was a bunch of hokey nonsense. I've always thought of the economy as something very simple. You know, God's economy is love, and our manifestation and our reality of that love economy is our sweat equity in community together, to ensure that we all have posterity and abundance. And so in my mind, that's always been the has always been the big thing that our nation has been missing, really. I've always been detested with the economy and always had a special place for money. I see it just as nothing more than a tool. Good, bad, or ugly, it's indifferent. So anyway, whenever I was brought to this table, I was quite surprised to be told the things I was told. And I was very surprised to even be at the table, because I didn't quite comprehend that people had been paying attention to the things that we've been doing at the grassroots movement. And as a result of those meetings, the trustee, the second trustee, is actually joined in our endeavor here. He's actually on our voyage with us to the states, to the several states, so that he can be present during this transition that we're experiencing. So that led coming back to Tennessee, because Tennessee had, for over the past year, had the ability to be stood up. And the people, I don't think, were aware of what they had accomplished in its entirety, because these things can be very segmented. So I was asked to inform the people of Tennessee of their accomplishments and to share their opportunity in being able to stand up with them in a way that maybe it might inspire them to do so. And so in that presentation, I had told them about their accomplishments and their endeavor and what had happened. And because of their merits and their works, that they were able to be the de jure free state of Tennessee. And after a long period of silence, questions, but not what I was hoping, silence in regard to what I was hoping for in that moment. It was a drawn out moment, and there were moments where I really questioned if we were going to be able to do this. And praise the Lord, a woman by the name of Carrie Dugan stood up and said, "I'll stand," just like George Mason did whenever challenged with complacency by the other forefathers. And because of her taking the initiative and standing, the other people of the assembled body there rose together and said that we will stand. We will take the notice to the governor and tell him that we're here. And so that evening we went into celebration, and Carrie was nominated as the interim governor of Tennessee because of her willingness to stand for the people. And we were going to go the next day, but because we had to craft the notice and because there were some logistical issues, we decided to push forward with the notice and deliver it on the 11th. And I would like to address that for a moment on the record, because there's been a little bit of controversy regarding that specific topic. In our reality, we have all been indoctrinated to perceive someone or something as having more authority and power than us, than ourselves as individuals or as a collective. And as a result, the little I in ourselves has figured out a way to take the stage in critical moments, in critical junctures. And I think this is something that has plagued mankind and society for a very long time. But I think we're seeing the manifestation of it again in our reality in this time because of the things that are happening. People think that there's a specific process that must be followed. Now, there is a blueprint that has to be respected and has to be somewhat adhered to. But when you're in a last man standing situation and you have to do what you have to do to save your posterity, your pursuit of happiness, your individual liberty, it's as simple as one man or one woman having the tenacity and the intestinal fortitude to stand up and rise to the occasion. A lot of people think that this is supposed to be perfect and that the jour republic is supposed to follow these certain protocols. And I'd like to tell you that nothing could be farther the truth, because those of us that are here, we're pawns too. We're just like everyone else. The only reason that we're here is because we went into a state of surrender and we asked for the path to be presented for us. And in that surrender, we were brought to this place. And so when people start to question what's happening, we have to realize first, we are the authority. We are the law. We are the beneficiaries of God's creation. And through that, we have this ability to rise to the top of the heap as individuals and express that for our countrymen. And when that happens, those that have been working diligently in the background can sometimes be caught up in this storm and try to reject or nullify the actual actions that have taken place based on their perception of what merits what's happening by the body politic of the people assembled. And if the people assemble according to the rules of law and qualify one another as a body politic, you are the law, the supreme law. You are an Article 3 court, and you have that authority and power in your jurisdiction that you establish as a people. And the ones that contribute life and fortune and sacred honor to this endeavor sometimes end their path before they're ready. But God has a place for us all and a time for us all, and we are all subjugated to his will. We are all nothing more than tools. We can be a honed tool that the Lord uses on a daily basis, or we can be that dull, rusty instrument that lays in the field, because we're incapable of removing the little I and becoming I am servant first. So the people that have taken this endeavor on, they comprehend that when they wake up in the morning, that when they start their day, the very first thing they do when they look in the mirror and say, I am, it has nothing more to do with I am than with the simple phrase, I am servant. And I think those of us that have been here on the forefront for a number of years, decades in some cases, we all share this in common, because when we sit down at the table to break bread together and to have a conversation to create unity throughout our nation, the one thing that is shared between us is the fact that we're all in disbelief that we're even here together and that this is actually happening. And if it wasn't for the testimony of brothers and sisters that are present there in honor and sanity, it would be very easy for us to feel that we had literally lost our minds, because this can be a lot bigger than our perception, because God's miracles are beyond our perception sometimes. It's very hard for us to comprehend God's will. And when we allow the ego and the little I to circumvent our place and our surrender, it creates dissension, it creates provocateurs. And we have to begin to recognize these provocateurs, because as we move forward, we're going to experience them, because we're all suffering from a great deal of trauma. And we're not making excuses for that trauma. We're overcoming that trauma so that we can rise to the top of the heap, shoulder and shoulder. And that way, no individual has to be an island. We can be a band of brothers and sisters. We can be the body of the ecclesia that our nation was founded upon. And that is Calvinism, biblical citizenship. It's something that's agreed upon by every constitutional scholar in the land, unless they're a fool or a pauper. And this is what we've done. This is what Tennessee has done, is they did exactly what was necessary according to the rule of law. And because of their actions, it is showing in the world around us. The RV has literally started because of these brave men and women taking the forefront. In fact, I got word just a little while ago, a secondary and even third confirmation that there is news circulating from other sources that the Iraqi dinar is coming online, and that there'll be many others that are going to be coming online as well. So those of you that have been believers and taken the leap of faith, you will be rewarded. And those of us like myself that have been doubting Thomases, we will not. And that's just the way this all works, right? We all have to accept our place. We'll all be made whole at the end. But in the beginning, it's those that have risen to the occasion and taken the leap of faith that have the merit to begin this new future for our people. If it wasn't for them doing as our forefathers had done, this couldn't happen. And not only am I a servant to the people, but I am also humbled and grateful for my servitude to those men and women. And so I just want to tip my hat to those of you that did this, that took these actions, because God bless you, just like God blessed Gary Dugan. Because without you men and women, I wouldn't have any more authority or power than a cockroach on the floor. So God bless you all. And so I'd like to finish giving a little bit of an update now, because I just let a lot of stuff out of the bag, and it's okay, because we have maximum accountability. We can't always divulge what's happening in the moment because there are security risks to those involved. And so from moment to moment, we may not be able to discuss things. We may not be available to discuss things. But just know that the only reason for that is because we need to protect ourselves while we walk this path so that others don't have to put themselves in jeopardy. Because right now we have an opportunity to cushion those that are lost, that are asleep. We have the ability to protect them from themselves and from the world while we educate them and embrace them in love and lift them up to where we're at. And that's our mission moving forward. That's our responsibility. We must come forward and we must populate the Republic in such a way that it represents the honor on which it was founded, right? And I think that we, all that were born here, feel this in our hearts and our souls. I know when I even speak about it like this, I start to get emotional. It tears at my heart because my family served for generations. And to see us in this state as we are today is it's upsetting in many ways, and it's okay to be emotional about it. In fact, it's really healthy, because if you really love it, if you really know what it represents and you really know what it does for you, then like John Kennedy said to us, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right? And that's where we're at today. So I just want to applaud you all for taking the path of self-governance and welcoming you to the table. Everyone that comes to the table, I encourage you to go into prayer and into counsel with your Creator. And I ask that you ask to be the tool that He wants you to be. And I invite you to step up in that capacity. Don't ask for permission. Take the initiative. You are independent, free people, and you have the ability to be self-determining. It is a non-judiciable question. All you have to do is make notice and presentment of your cause for such separation. It says so right there in the Declaration of Independence, and that, people, is your foundation. That is your strength. That is the manifestation of the strength of the American people on paper as given to us by our Creator. So have courage, and do what you've been called to do. And please do so without fear, because fear is nothing more than a tool to obtain courage. Master it. Don't let it master you. Rise to the occasion and let your voices be heard. And so on that, I'd like to yield the floor for a minute to allow for some questions for those that have heard a lot and may be out of their current scope of reality. Yes, Mel, please.
Yeah, you have met with the Chinese elders. That's what we heard on stage yesterday at our conference. Now, yesterday was, I lost track of time. I apologize. I have to ask you the question. I think a little humor in this time of apparel and chaos would probably go a long way. Are the Chinese elders Chinese?
So my encounter there is not necessarily physical. So I'm
Okay.
not sure how to answer that question, quite honestly.
Okay.
Their physical representation sits beside me on my journey because I demand accountability for all, including myself. And if they
Mhm.
want to not be barbecued, then they're going to have someone here in the physical plane with me at all times,
Right.
or we're going to do it ourselves as the American people, right?
What steps did they give you to take? How many steps are there in order for us to sort of get married up with the RV funds and Jassara Nassara?
Well, actually, the lion's share of all that work was done without our knowledge. I architected and created an infrastructure. And then this gentleman, Ryan Miner, that's on the call with us, developed some software that actually went in alignment with my hardware project. I had seen the need to have to white label because I couldn't find the right type of programmer to create the infrastructure for this physical hardware structure that we have to have in order to have security and autonomy as communities. And God, while I was in Arizona, actually, God introduced me to somebody who was actually 30 minutes away. And it just so happened to be Ryan, the interim governor of Arizona, who's on the call with us. And his brainchild was the software that manages the Republic for the United States of America's voting, record keeping, monetary system, you name it. This is an all-encompassing system that, when put on the right type of hardware and spread out across nodes, has the redundancy that is necessary to create security for all the information that's collected. And because it's able to be localized in the township jurisdiction by the investment of their tithing, right? They have to tithe themselves to build their community in this way, but they can purchase that is free and clear of all the old world technology and is ready to be integrated into this new network. And as they do, they can go as a community and they can purchase their own vault and building, and they can start their own depository and exchange, and they can begin their own localized gold bullion and barter economy. And
Great.
we
Now,
have models for all of these things to help the people along this journey.
now Tennessee is independent. You guys had to put up a certain amount of money to get some gold, and you have a bank and you have a monetary system that's backed by gold.
No, we didn't have to put up money. I want to clarify this nonsense,
Sure.
okay? Because I've heard this floating around in the chatter today, and I'm going to be held accountable to it because I'm the one that's responsible for releasing this information. So I must be clear. The people of Tennessee, a small group came together to do the bullion depository as a gift for the people of Tennessee. The clinic,
Mhm.
an individual, for the healthcare model, an individual came forward and out of his own pocket funded that endeavor. He also funded the endeavor for media outlets at the local level so that local jurisdictions can have their own media and be able to control what their children see through the airwaves. All of these projects were were performed and carried out by gracious people that have done it to be able to share the model, not to capitalize on our brothers and sisters, but to share. Because as we become self-governing, we have to do what's necessary to do things for our own states, our own nation states. It's going to be different for every free state. Okay, a free independent state, you have to remain somewhat fluid. Okay, there's no roadmap for this. When our forefathers started this endeavor, there was no one there telling them, this is what you must do, and this is the direction you must take. And so we have to go through that walk, that baptism by fire, just like our forefathers. What we've been able to do is to protect the people and to build the necessary tools that so when they're ready, if it all gets put together according to the people and their will, they can have their freedom, their liberty back. And so
Right.
what the people of Tennessee did, came together, a few of them, and built a private ministerial association and did a capital raise for themselves so that they could fund the first depository. That way we don't have to be reliant on these international monetary funds. It is not a requirement of law. It is smart, diligent business, right? You want to be in control of how you set your future. Go ahead, Mel. You
So
have a
this is not
question?
required. Yeah, this is not required for every state to own a certain amount of gold and set up their own bank, their own back currency, etc. This is
No.
something that Tennessee few people took on their own to do as a step, as what, extra measure of safety. What would you call it?
Well, that's right. They didn't care about noticing the de facto in the time. They just wanted to make sure that when the collapse came, that they were safe, right, and that they were able to help their communities. Um, and all the only thing I ever really talked about was the Exodus 18 model of self-governance, which actually was the brainchild of our moderator on the call, Charles Stewart. And he brought this forward. And Charles is at a savant level in the common law, and so he can be very hard to consume by some. And so the people of Tennessee took his model and made it their own, and they went on fire with it. There were a couple of people that took center stage in this. I was invited to Tennessee as a guest to help them in this endeavor because I studied with the people that did the Republic of Texas. That's where I cut my teeth in learning about Constitution, constitutional law, all law, really. I mean, this was back in the 90s.
Mhm.
And what your first question was, to just kind of circle back, because I want to make sure I answer it in its entirety. The system that Ryan has created and the way it can be implemented with the infrastructure, the hardware, right, the physical node stations, we have the ability to complete the bridge. And there's
Mhm.
only a few things that have to be worked out, and we're in those conversations right now. This is a trust building exercise. They view us as monkeys, and we're taking the steps necessary to show them that we're not. And so we have to keep an equal stride with one another for a minute, just so that we both
Mhm.
know that we're at the same place on the table. And once that
Sure.
happens, then their side kicks on. And then the states that are settled will actually get a deposit from the international monetary system, and it will be in
Yeah.
bullion. It's the money
Now,
that's owed to we the people.
yeah. You have stated that there are some people or entities that have started to get paid out from the RV. Is that what I heard you say, or maybe I misheard?
No, yeah, you misheard me. So the RV has actually begun. The evidence of that is the fact that the dollar didn't collapse on Monday when the markets open, right? Like that's
Correct.
the evidence of the fact that the RV started. Otherwise, we would all not be able to have this conversation right now.
Correct.
So
I
this is the success that was brought to the table just by the simple standing of one woman in Tennessee, God bless her, and then the people
Mhm.
rising with her. Yeah,
Yeah, I can tell you that, because of the position that I've put myself in of this, podcasting, whatever, and
yeah,
the sheer amount of people that are following us worldwide on an international level, I hear all of the stories and I get a lot of information sent at me,
yeah,
like 10 fire hoses per day,
yeah,
literally. And because I want to verify things on my own, I was able to walk into Wells Fargo about 5, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago or so.
yeah,
And I asked the lady behind the counter, I said, so are we ready with this, dinars and zims and whatever? And she looked at me like I had 9 heads. But the lady that was sitting in the middle of the room, which was a branch manager who was
yeah,
sitting across from a lady who had an aura, a very wealthy lady,
yeah,
said, we're not ready yet. I
yeah,
said, "Oh, that's good news. That means we will be ready at some point." And the
yeah,
lady across from her wanted to know what this was all about, and so I gave her the Kuwaiti story, Iraq when they went to war with the oil that they drilled, etc. That was going underneath the fence over to the Iraq, which caused the war. We knew that they would devalue the Kuwaiti dinar, and we allowed that war to happen. And the big boys and girls went in, kept it hush hush, bought it up all the dinars, and the rest was history. The only difference now is that we, the deplorables, have our hands on it, and that's a major problem with them. Hence the reason why we have a Mexican standoff.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly what we have. They've surrounded us, right? They have men to our north, men to our south. They just elected a Jewish governor or Jewish president for Mexico. They're flexing because they're terrified, and I think, Mel, you were probably in the loop on that, and probably are well aware that there's a lot of pressure being put on these folks right now. This is no joke. The people are ready. I've spent 12 years going from county to county in this nation, and I can tell you the people are ready. We are ready to be self-governing. People just need to have a simple explanation, as you stated earlier on our call, that they need to have a simple path. They can't have this complexity. And for the common man or woman, it is very simple. It all boils down to their individual sovereignty, as I stated earlier. And how does that work together with others' sovereignty? Because as a nation, we don't really practice our individual sovereignty. We practice our collective shared sovereignty in body politic. And that's what makes us so special. So yeah, it's very interesting because, again, I just, like you were actually introduced on the call earlier, Mark, that the last gentleman that introduced himself, that is actually the second trustee of the families of the dragon families that you're referencing. That is the physical manifestation of a man that is literally pulling the strings on his side of the fence, while I am been tasked with rising the people. And so we've been brought together to solve the problems that we've been facing, and we've been successful in doing that. We both have a very similar background in many ways, both from different lanes, not ever really aware of one another, but now that we see each other and see how to work together, all of this capability is coming online thanks to the sacrifice of literally thousands of men and women in the background for decades. I mean, this has been a struggle that most people cannot possibly fathom.
Yeah. I'm about to ask something that may make me sound either moronic or maybe one of the most intelligent people in the room. And I'm not trying to be one of the most intelligent people in the room. I'm just thinking out loud. Wouldn't it make it easier if we all signed a contract or some kind of a legal something document that says I stand by these things, you sign on it, then you learn what it is at a later point. But if somebody pulls you over, like a police officer or a tax person, is knocking on your door, you say, here it is, get out of my face. Is that possible? I'm trying to figure out a way to make it so stupid that we can go fast.
Okay, it is being made stupid simple. We actually have projects working right now in the background to bring forth new passports and new credential cards for the several states. We have the ability to be able to do this right now, but the people have to be able to do it on their end. They have to be able to accept it on their end. And the way this works is by going to the Republic for the United States of America .org's website, registering yourself as an individual that is notifying the world I am now in the Republic. And then if the individual would like a declaration of sovereign intent, a declaration of self-determination, a declaration of cause, whatever you would like to title it, is absolutely prudent and probably important for your own journey, just to mark this day in history as your liberation from Babylon, right? And so I would encourage all Americans to do that, because to do that, I think that you must read the Declaration of Independence. And I think that you must really take to heart the words that are being spoken in that document. And if you want to mirror that document, God bless you, because that's exactly what it's there for. That is who we are as a people. And so we have the right to have our voices heard. As far as law enforcement, I've been working for a long time on outreach programs with law enforcement. And I have the ability to sit down with any law enforcement officer in the whole country and show them how they have been turned into the Sheriff of Nottingham using the Transportation Code and Black's Law Dictionary. And I'll argue it with any attorney in any court, any jurisdiction, anytime, any place. It's the facts. It is the reality. And in this outreach, we are working, in fact, as the ambassador for the Republic at this time, my job is to ensure that the people have a shield between that de facto system and the de jure system. So in my office, and because of the efforts of the men and women that I've worked with for decades, and some that I haven't even known that have been doing their work in their lane for decades, we've all started to form unification between us and put our differences little I aside for we the people. And so all of these things are coming into reality now. It's messy. right? It takes, like, there was the good lady on the call earlier that offered herself for helping to create structure and a path, right? Something that is actually helpful to move this forward. We need project managers. We need programmers. We need cops. We need teachers and counselors and pastors. We need every valuable, and everyone has a place. And so, yeah, that's really what it boils down to. I think is we just have to find the internal fortitude to just take the leap of faith, and these documents can help us in that because it helps us commit to memory what our sovereignty is, where it comes from, and I don't have to consent. In fact, I will not consent.
Well, I think by somebody coming in that's new that really doesn't understand what this is, but it feels right. Like for me, it feels right. It's been feeling right for a couple of years now, and even though I haven't moved to take the necessary steps to become de jure or sovereign, because I'm one of the busiest people on the planet. I'm not making excuses for myself, but it is what it is. So I would like to sign a document. It's like, investing in XRP. Don't try to understand what XRP is. You need to own it. It feels good. You have too many people around you telling you need to own it. Buy it, put it on your hardware wallet, and learn after you bought it what it is you bought. If you feel good about it. And that's exactly the argument here is let's sign a document that was signed, that was designed around the Constitution of America, around the whatever our forefathers put together to save us from this catastrophe that we're in right now. And let's sign it, and then we learn about it as we go. But it's important for us to have the mechanism in place, like I said earlier, to make it simple for the average person, because there are a lot of moving parts here. Let's face it.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I'd like to take just a moment to go through the chat here. I just, and then I want to
Sure.
give Mike's had his hand up for a minute, so I'm going to give him a moment to have a little say and ask his question. But okay, so as I'm reading this, I just yeah, the Mexican people should organize. They have the ability to organize once we do because they are encompassed in our federal system. Many people don't comprehend the entirety of this fraud, but every treaty nation is tied to our treasury. Every single man, woman, child, shoot, at this point, they may even have the dogs. I don't know. So yeah, we the people must organize here in this country and be the example for the rest of the world. They're looking to us. I have colleagues from the international jurisdiction with me on a regular basis. He's not actually present right now, or I invited him to speak to this, but the other nations need us. Everybody needs the American people because we're the only ones that actually have the opportunity to do anything about all this. Second thing I'd like to address is there was a gentleman that said, as long as there are no state militias, no plan is going to be implemented, except unless rhetoric from the globalists like Trader, whoever Biden, senile Biden, et al. Okay, so let me just say, we the people assembled actually are the militia. So when you talk about if there's no militia, well, you can't have the body politic without it. You have the unorganized and the organized militia. The unorganized militia is the body politic at the township level that has agreed and signed a social compact or whatever with one another that says that I'm pledging my sacred honor and my life and my fortune to my community for our posterity, and I will rise and stand shoulder to shoulder with my neighbor in the defense of what we hold true in our community. That, sir, is the militia. And anything else that is not part of the civilian body politic is not the militia. In fact, that's why there's so much issue around this topic. It's something that actually, that was where my studies began, is because of my curiosity as to why all of a sudden the word militia became demonized. I could not in a million years fathom that. It seems so foreign to me. I organized the Potter and Randall County militias, the unorganized and organized, and actually submitted to the civilian authority and submitted to the authority of the de facto, because that was the law prescribed in Texas. And so it was accepted. except for the media. They of course painted me out to be a stupid lunatic. Well, they tried to embarrass me twice. The second time, actually, a good friend of mine, a constitutional attorney and civil rights attorney, came to my aid on a constitutional forum that was being aired during Obama's administration. So I did become a pariah in my hometown. I accept that. In fact, I don't mind being the bad guy. Shoot, if I have to be the bad guy, if I have to be the guy everybody hates so that we can have liberty and freedom, will hate my guts, come and burn me at the stake. I really just don't give a damn. So we're all doing the best we can do here. So just know that the militias are there. I do talk to the men. I do have contacts there. There was a directive that was issued by President Kennedy to special forces. And that was when Rangers and Delta and all these special forces guys from the Army return home. I can't speak to the other branches, but I know what the Army's told. And they're told to assemble the men, train the men, because Kennedy knew this day would come. That's why he gave the speech that he gave. What armies by day, guerrillas by night. I mean, the guy was prophetic in his word. He actually had an awakening, and he aired it and got shot in the face for it. So this has been in the mix for a very long time, I promise you. And there were white hats. There was a plan, but the plan devolved into we the people, because we the people are the only way that our nation can be staved from collapse. And it's the only way our republic can be salvaged. And it's the only way all of this RV and all of this new economy is going to take place. Because without we the people, it's meaningless. It means diddly squat. And they know that, we know that. So, the gloves are off at this point. We speak freely about these things because there is no reason to have fear. So those of you that are interested in being part of the body politic and becoming the proper militia, I would encourage you to assemble the people of your community so that you have a proper committee of safety and correspondence, and you have a proper general assembly so that you have the support of either the sheriff you elect or the constable you elect, or your local county sheriff who's already elected that decides to serve the Constitution instead of his pocketbook. And those that don't, well, their day is numbered. Okay. Those that don't want to honor their oath, their day is numbered, and they know that. They're hearing it through the grapevine too. This is not strange news to those people. So Mike, if you would, you had your hand up for a long time. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. God bless you, brother. I want to say a few things here on behalf of several people that are on the call, because I sent out invitations to everybody on my big virus hoax list, hundreds, as well as my righteous army list. I wish more had made it in. Obviously, not everybody can do that. So just for the record, and for those, thank you for those that decided to join in. I want to assure you that I've developed a relationship with Eric Dingus over the last couple of years, and he has been the most, so many words I could use, forthright, honorable, on target with regards to the work he's been doing and his approach at making it clear that the authority lies with each one of us as individuals. We the people, we are the authority in our local jurisdictions. That's where the authority lies. There is none higher. And Eric has been working diligently for years in that regard. Sometimes Eric gets a little pestered with me because people that know me, and this isn't just about me. I'm going to ask a couple questions of you, Eric, for the benefit of not only some of the people that are on this call, but several other people that often bring this up. We know that we live in a very modern technological time with social media. And one of the big pet peeves with me has always been this reality of psychological operations based on the New World Order, one world government agenda. The prime example that we're all familiar with now is how over in China, they have a social scoring system and everything is digital monetary currency. So to the extent that I, in my humble opinion, have spent the last couple of years unraveling what I call the Trump Q psyops, which many people still are hooked to. Many people have jumped off of that train. Without going down the political road here, there's an ever-present concern on the part of many good-minded Christian and patriotic, truth-oriented people with regards to that possibility being what's underlying. Even though your work is honorable and you're sincere, as the gentleman who spoke earlier asked the question, is the Dragon family Chinese? We know that even when it comes to this new world government people, that they control other nations. They control China. That's why they've got their systems in place over there. So to the extent that there is a concern that the Republic for the United States of America movement itself, since Tim Turner ran it, right, and went to prison, and many other people died or disappeared and tucked tail and left. You know, you and I mutually discussed our concerns a year ago about whether that movement, not necessarily the people that are involved with it, you know, that we hear of on the, you know, these Zoom calls we have, but that it may have been infiltrated, hijacked by that same upper echelon that's pushing for their new world order, one world government agenda, ultimately so that they can implement digital monetary currency systems, because by doing that, they have total control over everybody and everybody's finances. And when they lock it into their social scoring system, then we're all in Satan's den for sure. We're all done.
Only if we consent. Only if we consent, Mike. Please, please, please comprehend that, and let's make sure that that stays known at all times. This only happens if we consent to it, because all of that is great and beautiful. But again, without we the people, none of that stuff matters. None of it matters. We don't have to be afraid. Listen, if we're afraid of globalists being in the mix, step up. Qualify yourself and step up and ensure that your nation is protected just like I do. I'm not the only one that does this, for sure. I'm not an island by any stretch. And we have invited all people to the table. And if you're qualified to handle the workload of being in the international jurisdiction, or being at the state level or the county level or the township level, well, for God's sakes, do your job. Don't question everybody around you. Build community so that you have people you can trust. Stand shoulder to shoulder to everyone that you have in your sphere. If you can't break bread with people and you can't hold them accountable to the standard they project, we have nothing as a people, nothing. As we are no better than monkeys at that point, and those people are right. So let's leave the fear rhetoric. Let's leave the question of who's in charge behind and take charge. You, the people, take charge. This is what the people of Tennessee did. It wasn't me. In fact, the video was shared with a lot of people. And I think everybody that sees that video will hear that it was by their merits and by their willingness to stand and by their tenacity to move forward. And that's what creates this, not me. Again, I have no more authority than you, the people, give me. Mel, please.
Yeah. Well, I know what this gentleman is talking about. He's talking about the central bank digital currency, which has recently got shut down by Congress. The central bank digital currency is never going to, I happen to have a black belt in this particular subject. The central bank digital currency has got shut down by Congress simply because it doesn't have a spot in the spotlight. In other words, what they were trying to do, we see when they realized that XRP is on the horizon, and they realized that many of these ISO tokens work perfectly well peer-to-peer. That means we could pay each other peer-to-peer. We don't need a central bank digital currency to pay each other. Right. They realized that their goose was cooked, and it was just a matter of time before it has to come out of the oven. It has come out of the oven in the United States of America. Had they made good on their threat that we have to use their central bank digital currency, that would be like every banker in America and the world signing their own death warrant. Because when you're trying to play with people's livelihood and people's money, and you're saying, hey, you have 100 days to spend that, through $200 on popcorn, otherwise your money is going to expire. Well, let me tell you what's going to expire. I don't care if they live in gated communities with heavily armed guards. Those houses would be surrounded by American people that are pissed off beyond belief with guns, and the only thing that's going to expire is their life. And they would be, like I said earlier, they would sign a death warrant, and they know that is not going to happen in America. That is the reason why you never, under any circumstances, give up your guns and buy more. Period.
That's right. That's exactly right. And just so that you all know, literally, okay, so we have this saying in Texas, we've got them by the short hairs. Okay. We've got them, and they have no wiggle room anymore. We're closing every opportunity that they've ever had to get out of this, to be, the way they are. So I'm sorry, Mike. Did you have more to add? If you do, please feel free.
Well, yeah. First thing I wanted to say was God bless you, brother, and thank you for that excellent words you gave back in response to what I was saying. Because I hope that can be helpful to others as well. It goes back to your profound point that Joy's making, that the power lies with us. And to the brother who was just speaking, again, thank you for pointing that out, because that is a concern. I hear it all the time from people. It's a concern of my own.
Yeah.
And the last question I would have on it then, with regards to how a monetary system would work, because if I'm not mistaken, Eric, you did even indicate in our conversation the other night that, well, we kind of have to plug into this new system, which is going to be digital monetary. So okay, if they screw with us, okay, we're going to surround their houses and with stakes and pitchforks. Perhaps that's true, fair to say. Is there still room for, Eric, what you once had mentioned? You're the one that brought it to my attention that counties themselves have the lawful authority to create their own currency.
Well, that's exactly right. Now the county can only do that with the de facto government in place. Now, if the de jure government has risen, the county does not it no longer has that authority. It has to be the will of the people assembled according to their constitution. So, for example, the people assembled as Tennessee, the 3 districts were represented, and the decision was made to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. That's how this flows. So what you decide for your community, listen, if you don't want to have this infrastructure, if you can't comprehend that it's a gift and that it's in your control at all times, and you're scared of it, well, you can do your own thing. Now, will it be able to tie into the blockchain in the international community where the wealth of the globe is brought from the local community level into the international marketplace, so that people like myself can still conduct business? Because I like business. I like to create things for people. That's what I do. That's where I invest my time when I'm not doing this. So yeah, we have autonomy. We, the people, are the authority in the law. So therefore, whatever we decide is what we decide. If we want to trade in 22 ammunition and buttons, well, God bless us. That'll be our economy, and nobody else has to be a part of it, right?
Okay, so to clarify that you said, because that was significant, you are indicating that when that's noteworthy. You're saying that under the de facto, the counties have the authority to create their own currency, but under this new system, they won't. Everybody has to plug into that system. So again,
only the people assembled. At the de jure level, it wouldn't be called a county unless they had established the county. You see, it's what the people establish as to what is the de jure. So for those of you that really want to comprehend the moment of what's going on, so Tennessee issued a notice of de jure segregation. And you can learn about de jure segregation from Justice Scalia. He did an excellent dissertation on what that is. And when we, the people, choose to create our own jurisdiction, such as a trust or a private membership association or whatever, we can create our own independent jurisdiction, and that is superior to all other jurisdictions, limited by the boundaries defined in the instrumentality created. We have that authority as individuals to do that. I do it all the time for a living. I build trusts and all kinds of financial wealth management and helping people define their path to prosperity. Yeah, we can, as a local body politic, print and have our own economy. Absolutely. Now, as we move through the rule of law, we must always be cognizant of which jurisdiction we're rubbing up against and how we address and work through those issues. So I hope that helps to bring a little more clarity to that.
It does, but one final point of clarification, because you to me, you seem to have indicated, not just in what you said now, but in other conversations we've had, and I think this should be clarified for everybody. This republic is not a republic based on the United States of America. This is international. It's a republic that
No.
is
No,
international.
no, Mike, you are totally off base. You have definitely
Well, I mean,
misunderstood.
that's what you indicated with the international monetary system that we'd have to plug into. So at least financially,
Mike, but no, you're missing my point altogether. So if you would please allow me the latitude of clarifying for you. We, the people, don't have to do a damn thing, brother, unless we choose to. You understand what I'm saying? So we don't have to tie into any kind of globalist anything if we choose not to. As I stated, rise to the occasion and put your fear aside. Find your courage, find your intestinal fortitude, and rise to the top and ensure your people are protected. That's the challenge of the day. Okay? The financial aspect, it's in your control. Learn how to have control. Learn self-governance, learn how to function as a body politic, as a collective, and build consensus. That's all you have to do. That's all you need to focus on. Everything else is minutia and can't even really happen until we, the people, decide that it happens. That's the whole point. Like this infrastructure. Like I can't come into Florida and put servers all over the place and build node stations and create this infrastructure for Florida. For one, I don't have the financial resources nor the desire. And then on top of that, it's unlawful. I can't come to Florida unless the good people invite me. If you don't want the international monetary system, don't invite them. You just say you're not invited into our camp. Sorry. And isolate yourself. Be an island. But we can't decide those things until we have our Continental Congress put together and we, the people, assemble. Because right now, we're in a pickle. We're in a perpetual union that only the Continental Congress can undo lawfully. And if we violate those treaties, guess what? All of this effort, all of this goodwill, all of the American people turn into property and are put in the international market as exchange. And then the globalists win. Then they get their technocracy, and then you get to live in a smart city and get treated like a mushroom and put on VR while they go and fly around in space or wherever the hell they're going. I don't know, but they're definitely going somewhere because what they're preparing isn't for this construct for sure. And when you comprehend these things at such a level, then it becomes quite clear. The only resolve, the only answer, the only salvation is in the Lord and we the people. So just go inside on that, Mike. I challenge you to go inside.
Eric, it's not a fear issue. It's a questioning what's going on and what they're endeavoring to do, because a lot of people have concerns about it, particularly
well, let
because
them voice their concerns, brother. Let them voice. You voiced yours. Now allow them the space to voice theirs.
Absolutely. If anybody else has any concerns, please feel free to speak. I yield.
Anybody? All right. Well, let me make sure. Let me check the hands here. I don't see anybody. Charles, do you see anybody with their hand raised?
No.
Okay. So at this moment, I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to give you an update on where we're at in our space and time together. And I'd like to thank you all for your questions and your input. I am going to, unless there's something of pertinence for me right now in the moment, I'd like to leave the call for open dialogue among the people so that you can begin to organize and build consensus among yourselves. So with everybody's permission, I'm going to turn off my video and mute my mic and just listen from the background for inspiration.
Yeah. Can I make a word here, if I may, Eric?
Yes.
Yeah. This happened to me on March 8th and March 9th. I was invited to a closed session with General Flynn, and him and Clay Clark and a few others were painting the picture as the sky is falling, and Klaus Schwab and this guy Awari is going to be the Antichrist, and we're doomed, and the central bank digital currency. This is why I created XRP Army 2.0. I am the general of the XRP Army 2.0. The 1.0, if you watch them, and they're the original guys that I've gotten a lot of information from, and then I veered off and I tied it into everything else, which made a lot of sense. Basically, till today, you said you turn on any of their channel, they're still talking central bank digital currency. They don't get it. They truly don't understand. Yeah. And the same thing with General Flynn. General Flynn's saying the sky's falling. We're all doomed. Trump is powerless against the bankers. We can't move forward. The central bank digital currency is going to win. And I stood up and I said a couple of four-letter words that I won't do here because out of respect for the ladies. And I said, sir, with all the respect, you don't know what the blank you're talking about. And all of a sudden, the room stood very, very quiet. They realized that somebody here knows what they're talking about. And I went at it pretty much just the same way I went at it with this gentleman, with much more respect, obviously. But I really, really dug into him. To which, Amanda Grace and some of the big people that were in the room literally grabbed me and said, who are you? You have a lot of fight in you, and they wanted to know more. Hence the reason why I started to explode even more since that conference. But the reality is, if you're willing to look at the reality, is the central bank digital currency has been voted out at this point in the United States of America. It will stand no ground. Okay, so people need to breathe a sign of relief. The Chinese social credit score will never make it to America under any circumstances.
That's right. That's exactly right, Mel.
Okay.
We are going to have, without question, without reservation, I can say unequivocally, beyond a shadow of doubt, we will have a gold-backed currency, period. There's no other way to do this. It's just that simple. And I share a similar experience to you, Mel. I was actually invited to the table by one of General Flynn's staff members and was told that we the people are the plan, and that ego had gotten in the way of what the White Hats were trying to do. And so that by that token, we had to do what we had to do. And he was in my lane instead of his. And then he took me to a meeting full of senators and representatives, and there was a guest there from Maricopa County. And mind you, this is as soon as I had returned from the border. I mean, these like days within that arrival, I found myself having coffee with this gentleman. And when I was invited into this room of politicians, I wasn't an invitee. I was invited privately. And when I heard the guest from Maricopa speak, because of what I committed myself to do for the people of Tennessee, I called him a liar to his face. And it caused a lot of ruckus. And I offered to show him the video. I had it all with me right there because I wanted to show this gentleman that had called me to the meeting earlier. And I was vetted. I've been vetted over a long period of time, evidently, by we the people somehow. One of these things I can't necessarily explain or even quite comprehend. I think you've probably experienced the same thing, Mel. And so I appreciate your testimony, because what it does is it adds further validity to what my experience has been. So God bless you.
Yeah, what they failed to realize is that, when they were able to take the guns away from the United Kingdom and Australia successfully, when they came to the United States and they realized that this is the last piece of the domino that needs to fall in order for us to move into communism, they never realized for 1 second that the domino weighs 900 trillion pounds. And it's not that easily knocked over. And so when they realized that, now they realize they have a fight on their hands, and hence the reason why people like you and I and a lot of the men who have some testosterone left are here. And we need to recruit more people out there, because, at the end of the day, this war is going to be won by us, the people, but it takes preparation, education, perseverance, tenacity. It takes everything, and because the enemy is not going to lay down, like I've said earlier. I don't think they're ever going to lay down until they literally out of bullets. But because we have been distracted with the price is right, and let's make a deal. And, what's that show where they turn the letters? I can't think of the show. I don't watch TV for about 22 years, but more than 22 years.
Wheel of Fortune.
But you know what I'm talking about. Wheel of Fortune. There you go. Okay. We've been distracted with all of this stuff by design, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, all the stuff. And now we are at the precipice. And the reason why we're here is because we were entertained, because Americans probably love to be entertained more than anybody else in the world. But now we realize that the car has gone off the cliff. We got a couple of parachutes left to soften the landing, but it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy crash, no matter what. How you feel.
That's right. Here. In fact, so I'd like to address, Carrie's on the call now, Carrie Dugan. The update was information that you're already aware of, ma'am. So you didn't miss anything, and we have recorded the call, so you'll be able to view it in its entirety when you have an opportunity. And then again, I just want to thank everybody. I have my dinner sitting in front of me, so I don't mean to be rude, but I think Mel, and I think Charles, and I think Ryan and Carrie and Nina, and I see so many familiar, Dave Roberts, Lynn Wagner, everybody on here, I think, is capable of self-governance. So I'd like to invite you all to take the floor and talk about this stuff, build consensus as to how our communities look. And again, we have models for all those that are interested. And one thing I'd like to leave the call with is we have a state of emergency in Ohio and Idaho right now. And the Idahoan people have had their water cut off. the farmers have. And if it doesn't get turned back on soon, then they're going to not be able to produce their crops. You see, they're manufacturing a food shortage. So if any of you have contacts with people in Idaho, I would appreciate it if you would contact me directly. And I will be contacting my people in Idaho to see that this situation is fixed. But I do want to encourage the American people at this time to begin tithing. If you believe in this and you want it, tithe to it, because those of us that are risen to the occasion and want to be your peace officers, the only thing that we ask for is equipment and food, right? That's it. That's all we want, and an opportunity to do our job. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. And those of you that have been preparing for this day, please know that this is the moment, this is the hour, and we must come together in unity. So thank you all, and God bless. God bless us, and God bless America.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. I just wanted to take this opportunity as the interim governor that, you know, I'm taking the stand, and I'm doing my part. We all are just individuals, but together we are unity, and we are this nation. Because I know we have people on the call that are from other states. And I want to take this opportunity right now to ask you that if you are resonating with this and you want to step in and help, we need you. And I want to extend this as an invitation. I'm asking you, because sometimes people just need to be asked. They just need to be asked, hey, do they need my help? Do they not? Yes, we do. And everybody has been given gifts and talents by our Creator, Father God. And now is that time to use those gifts and talents, because it's this, for such a time as this, that every one of you is on this call for a reason. It's divine appointment, and we're up to the challenge, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it. I know we can do it together. And I speak for everybody that's on this call. I'm sure you're all thinking the same thing. Let's get organized. Everybody has ideas, and I want to hear them. We want to hear what you have to share, and we'll plug you in. We're not going to turn anybody away. And in the chat, I put the link to register to get involved in the New Republic, whether you're in Tennessee or Georgia or Arizona, it doesn't matter. The website is there. And as he said, Ryan Miner has created that software, and it's ready to go. It works. Just make sure that if you're using Brave or one of the browsers that blocks scripts, make sure you deselect that so that the JavaScript can come in and do its part, because we thought we had a glitch, but we got that resolved. So anyway, Ryan, I just want to see if you have anything to say, sir, as the interim governor of Arizona, if there's anything you want to speak to about the website that you've designed as a resource for we the people, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of resources there that we just need to get in and get plugged into.
No, thank you. I can speak a little bit on it. You sound like a programmer, though. One conversation and you're already ready to write code, talking JavaScript.
I appreciate that, but no, that's all you, brother. That's all you.
No, so I designed this website. It's actually started out as a kind of a community tool to try to get people organized and off of the dependencies. There's a lot of features on it that are not visible right now. We're just trying to stick to what we need at the core. So, I mean, there's resources for growing your own food and purifying water and things like that. A lot of the content is missing because I'm not an expert on all those things, but as we have people pitch in, we can make those resources available. There's an encrypted instant messaging service, which is turned off right now because of the cost of database space would just be astronomical, and we don't have any funding or anything to go with that. So, but yeah, it's simple to get people registered, to get our numbers up, to comply with the Northwest Ordinance, so that we can stand up these states and take the fight to them. So if you have any issues with the website, use the contact us form. The email will come to me and I can take a look at it. I do have a full-time day job, so don't overwhelm my inbox. But yeah, we'll take care of things as they come along. And you know, thank you again to everyone that's participating in this, because you know, I'm like many of you, I'm doing this because I love our country. I'm doing what I can for my country. So Yeah, thank you. That's all I really wanted to say.
Lynn, Carrie, Wagner, do you guys have anything you want to share?
I'll just share that this call going forward is going to be more of an educational platform. Tonight was just a call to kind of get us all acquainted, but Charles Stewart, who's on the call, is going to be providing that education for us. He's a constitutional law expert. And in the past, when we've done these calls, they've kind of just been, kind of talking amongst ourselves without a real roadmap, but he's been gracious enough to share that with us. So that probably won't happen tonight because we're already pushing 8 o'clock, but next week and going forward, that's the plan, because everyone's been expressing their interest in, what the newbie can do. And, we're all in our different states and, we all have to build our own community. So I think the hope eventually would be that we meet each other from our states and our communities locally, that maybe we get connected with people that we didn't know before. And, maybe we can start building out our own communities like we're doing here in Tennessee. We're building the model and we will share that with everybody, but we are by no means complete. We're just starting this like everybody else. I don't want anyone here thinking we're like leaps and bounds ahead of anybody. We literally just did this last week and we're all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. So, yeah, I mean, my role here is, Eric's administrator. And so I'm handling things on the financial side and getting all the budgets and finances together. But, I mean, while that's my background and my heart is here in Tennessee and I love America and will do anything for this country, that's my role. But I'm sure every single person on this call has their own contribution that they can make. And so like Carrie Dugan said, please come forward, because even if it's just an interim position, Carrie knows full well she may not be the governor she may, and maybe I'll probably vote for her because hopefully other people will come forward, but we don't know. But right now there are many vacant seats. And if we don't have a full, populated government on this side, how do we move forward? So I yield.
On your website, do you have a place where the members can chat amongst each other, where we could bring the best ideas that everybody has? Or if you think you have a great idea, to put it down on how we can move the process forward very quickly, very streamlined. And then we'll take what we think the best ideas. If you have a committee that could take a look at all these chats with all the different ideas, boil them down into something of significance, and then put something together that's actionable.
The code to handle that is finished, but it's not turned on right now just because the database size to run an instant messaging system it's very costly. And it's hosted on an actual physical box at a physical location. So it's not in the cloud somewhere where we can just click a button and scale up. So eventually when we secure funds or donations or whatever it may be, then we'll be able to do that. So but yeah, no, that's a good point. And we do have the instant messaging capability that it's turned off for right now. There's actually there's a bulletin system that governors can use, and it's kind of like a built-in Twitter, like I call it bulletins. So they can go in there and they can post a bulletin, and then everybody in the state that is registered will be able to see that bulletin, and they'll get an email saying, hey, a new bulletin was created, click here to go view it, and it'll take them right to that. So there's kind of like a central core of information there. It's basically just like a Twitter that one person can post on, or any administrator of a state.
Thank you.
Now, earlier today, we had another call where UML had recommended putting some videos together so that we can do a series of short, maybe educational videos to help get those spread very quickly. We have a Rumble channel that we created with our Awakening group, so we can get those videos on Rumble and people can send those Rumble links. So I'm asking if there's someone out there that has that ability that wants to help us facilitate those. I think that would be one of the first primary priority media pieces to try to get accomplished.
Yeah, one other thing that Carrie and I were talking earlier, Carrie Wagner and I said to in addition to having say 7 or 8 or 10 educational videos at the end of those video series, as they go through the classroom, if you will, virtual classroom, there will be a test where they would have to score a 80 or above in order to be invited to continued education. This way, this doesn't just become a hoopla, everybody gets warm, fuzzy feelings, and nothing's going on because the people are not properly prepared. We want to make sure that the people that are going to go through the course are retaining, they're passing the test by a minimum of 80%, then they're invited to the party. In other words, they got to put a little bit of skin in the game. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah, totally
So-
agree with that.
People will use the videos that are already there and then adding to them, based on like foundational information that, all of us need to finish and get the proficiency of that. And then we can speak knowledgeably about all these things, because the questions are going to keep coming and the newbies will have to know this. And all the ones I'm getting calls and texts and emails, and people were in live of the event we had in Florida, and I don't know these people, and they're wanting to know, what do they do for their state? And I'm like, I don't even know who to call or where to send them or whatever. So we're acknowledging their question. We're trying to send them to the right people. So I don't know if there's some database or a list or the right chain of command for is it a financial question? Because I see this as you need funds, and it's not a lot, but it's something. And every state has to have some kind of a funding or, put some money in. I don't even know if they don't have their, trust ready to go, how they do that, I'm not sure, but it takes some money to get this thing going, and it's not a lot. But if everybody puts in a little bit, then that state, like Florida, for example, would have a pool to work with and then get the stuff out, because all this stuff costs, and we're all doing sweat equity. And I know, Mel's gonna donate a lot of the time, the education, the platform. He's got all this stuff done, but going forward, this stuff takes money, and putting these events together and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, every state would need to know, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just cookie cutter this process, how we did it, how every state's going to do it. We can share that information, and everybody's just like crying for it from what I've heard. And I don't know how to reach out to all these people and what to say and who to go to. And I don't want to step over toes, but we don't want to waste a bunch of time either. But is there a way, or what is the chain of command for, the next step for the newbies coming in? Like, Florida's not in, like some of these states are kind of going forward, like he's saying, Idaho and Michigan and Ohio. Okay. Well, then what about the other states? What's the plan of this? I would be curious to know it. I'll yield.
Can somebody say the name of the website again for the record? The
Which
website? Well, the website you're referencing where people
The
can go.
Republic.
Right, the Republic for the United States of America.org. Is that the one you're referencing?
Right. And you register on there for free. And that's the first step. And you put your email, your information. So then I'm getting stuff from there. And then if you want to send that off to your whole constituency rather of your state, then they've got that database. So from that database, people can step up and know the next step. But it's got a whole list of things to do on that left side of just learn what's on that site. So I'm about halfway through myself, but I'm thinking if we learn all of that, then we're versed in this process. And then everybody coming forward will be able to be, learned. And then the videos come in and all that kind of stuff. So I think all these, Rumble channels, like you're saying, Carrie, and the Awaken group and Mel's group. And I mean, Mel's done a lot already of education, and more is coming. And I love the fact that if we can do like a little, quick video, take a test, oops, you passed or you didn't. And then you learn, but you learn from failing, or we didn't know that, or, I don't have a huge background in some of
You
this
could
either,
take
but
the
it's like
course.
education.
Yeah, you could take the course over and over and over again once
Right.
we have a series
So
of,
you-
like, say, 10 videos or an hour long until you pass. Then you
Right.
get invited to the party, because now we know that you're a learned person and you bring something to the table of value because you answer the questions, the multiple choice questions properly, and we know that you learned the stuff. And it's important that the material is absorbed.
Mhm.
Is there a website for those pieces of education yet, or have you not built that out yet? I missed that part. These videos that you're
No,
referring?
we have not built that out yet. We are looking for people who are the most qualified to do so.
Right.
Preferably maybe bring in Molly Elmore, but she knows how to simplify stuff so that it's consumable for the average, 110, 115 IQ,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Well, and here again,
Because
so we've
look, we're
also
not
got
dumb
this
by
new
nature. We have,
call
yeah.
with Charles. That'll be an educational platform
Right.
as well. Everyone's free to learn where they feel best led. This is the platform that we are providing, and then whatever we'll be putting on that Republic
Correct.
Forum.
And people are not
Website as
dumb.
well.
People have been dumbed down with chemicals and the food and
Yeah.
all the junk they put in it. They make these fancy packages so that we buy all this junk, and we don't really read the label because the words are so long you don't even understand what those words mean anyway. And we ingest this stuff, and we're we're in our 60s and 70s, and people are getting diseased, and they're getting sick, and they're dying prematurely, etc. So people are not stupid. People have been, look, if you go to Walmart or Kmart or Target and you look around you, you're in a zombie apocalypse. I don't care what part of the country you're in. Okay. You look around you, these people are overweight, they're missing teeth, they're having conversations that are not coherent. And you look around you, Amber and I look at each other and say, what planet am I on?
Well,
You know?
just to back up to what Carrie, my sister Wagner, said a little while ago about where do we direct people for the other states. Again, I just want to reiterate, this is very grassroots. And so while I can be a resource for what we're doing from the budget and financing side of things, I can only speak to the cost of what we're doing here in Tennessee. I can't say that that's what it's going to cost in your state. It may be a matter of how many people are in your state, or how many counties in your state, or how many peace officers you want to have. I can definitely give you direction, but I have not filled out this whole budget yet. We're still in process, and we're still working through all the details. So for someone to come to me today, I'm going to be a guideline for you. So I just want to set that expectation that there is no roadmap. We are building a roadmap, and this is self-governance. I need to stress that, because yes, there's going to be places that we can go for education, but like Eric, if you listen to Eric's message, it's always we the people, and we all have to come up. And we've been so conditioned to wait for someone else to drop a little bit of information to us, and then when we feel like we're just taking action because we listened to something someone said, when in actual fact we didn't really do anything. A lot of us are these digital soldiers that they talked about. It's time for the action now. So while I can guide you, or anyone on this call can guide you, it's up to you, and it's up to you and your state and the people who you're going to lock arms with every single day in your own communities to protect one another. So I'm happy to help or guide people, but I just really want to set that expectation that my phone's not ringing off the hook waiting for me to give you.
Another thing we're going to need is sort of like a short boiled down version of a business plan. It doesn't have to be the Old and the New Testament. Okay. Of what is needed, donations, this, that, a plan of action, a bullet point, etc., that has to be in a cohesive, organized, numeric order, on what goes first, second, third, fourth, so that we have a plan, a blueprint. It's like building a house. You don't build a house without looking at the blueprint, say, hey, this board goes here or it doesn't go there, right? Does it require 5 screws or does it require 3 screws? Okay.
Dave,
so we have to have
a minute there. Would you like to tell us what happened last night in Ohio?
Yeah, thank you. My name's Dave Roberts. I am the Chief Continental Marshal for the East Coast of the Republic for the United States of America. And we had an event last night. We had live streaming from Ann Vandersteel through the whole entire event. I just placed a link if anyone would like to watch that on our event. But in Lorain County, the health department imposed a fee of $40 a year. They wanted $120 up front on 22,000 septic systems in the county, which would generate $2.6 million of revenue to the county coffers instantaneously as of April. And they did not come to the people and make a referendum or anything like that. They just said that there was a law passed by the corporate government in 2015, and that they were acting on that law, and that we should have stood up back in 2015 and opposed it at that point. This is all part of the deep state operations. So we and with this $2.6 million, there's no guideline, there's no framework, there's no matter of fact, when we had a conversation with them last month, they told us that that they're not going to provide 22,000 inspections. They're not even going to provide roughly 10,000 inspections, and so they're collecting a fee without providing a service. So this is a tax, and then if you don't want to pay it, then they're going to assess your property taxes. And the other thing is they gave no outline as to what the inspection consisted of, because I mean, for 100 years, the septic systems have been maintained by the property owners with no repercussions. And if they needed it pumped out, they pumped it out. And the the pumping company would send paperwork into the health department telling, because they would inspect the septic system. But now all of a sudden the state's stepping in and they're demanding that this be done with no ramifications, no guidelines, no four-corner document or anything of this nature. And this is tyranny at the highest degree. So I went in last month to the board meeting and I got them by their own admission that they have no oath of office and they have no fidelity bonds. And these are two things required in the Constitution under Article 6, Clause 2 and 3, which states that the Constitution is superior law of the land, and in our state, the Ohio Revised Code is not. And the Ohio Revised Code in our state is a corporate private policy that is trying to be enforced upon the people, and that's tyranny in itself, because any corporation, McDonald's, IBM, I don't care who they are, as long as they operate inside their corporation with their own private corporate policy, that's permissible. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when they go outside of their corporate realm and they try to enforce their rules and regulations upon the people. That's tyranny. That's obstruction of justice. It's a violation of due process of law. It's a breach of public trust. Extortion, barratry, the list goes on. So anyhow, last night, the Committee of Safety of Lorain County and the Ohio State General Assembly and myself, Continental Marshal, went to the Lorain public hearing, and I made a presentment giving them 3 days to evict their position with immunity, with prejudice. But after that 3 days, there's no leniency, and we will be holding them to the letter of the law. And there will be a tort claim, which is right now with 29 signatures, $43.5 million per man. And we're dealing in common law, and this is where all of you need to start to learn the difference between the legal bar-gill system and common law. In common law, you go after the man or the woman. You do not go after the corporation. The corporation is a piece of paper that flaps in the wind, has no standing. The man that harms you, this is in God's law, this is natural law. If you've been harmed by a man or woman, you go after the man or woman. If that police officer shows up to your house to kidnap your child with the Child Protection Services, and they have a fake warrant, you sue the police officer and the agent of the Child Protection Services, and you go after them. And then you run it up the ladder, like the police officer, the sergeant, the lieutenant, the captain, the vice chief, the chief, and the mayor of the city. You run it right up the flagpole, because they're all guilty by compliance, because one trained the other to do the job and enforce the law. And it's in direct violation to what? To our unalienable rights. In the Declaration of Independence, they spell this out very clearly, that the government has one job only, and that is to protect our unalienable rights. and not to do anything other than that. So these crooks, these Gestapo operations are in agencies operating right now are in direct violation to the law of our land. And as Eric just spoke earlier, we got to stand up. And if you look at any state constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in Ohio, it's Article 2, in some states, I think in Louisiana, it's Article 1, it's all power is inherent in the people. You have all the power. They have none. No government has any power. It's all implied. So you, the people, have to stand up and grow some gonads. And right now, the timing is perfect because with the petrodollar collapsing, the government is weak. It's very weak. The bonding market's going to collapse. The stock market's going to collapse. And with those collapse, that's how they make their money. The court system makes their money through bonding. They bond your case for anywhere minimum $5 million up to 50, 60, $100 million. And they're not going to be able to do that anymore. So they're not going to be able to force their will upon the general public. So getting back, so we served them last night, and in 72 hours, we're going to find out which directors of the board resigned. If none, that's fine. And then in 10 days, we're submitting the quo warto and a writ, the writ of quo warto and a tort claim with the opportunity to cure. And then the final notice will be 10 days later, which is notice of fault or notice of default and dishonor. And we will then, we'll be doing that process through a notary presentment. And I know this stuff's talking over your head, and I'm sorry, I apologize. But that's something that can be learned, that we can teach you guys. With a notary presentment, that's a judgment. That's higher, that has a higher judgment than if you have a judge write an order. Notary presentment by a notary has a higher standing in court of law than a judge. And with that notary presentment and our notice of default and dishonor, we take it to their insurance company because they have a blanket insurance company. And all the people in Lorain County is covered under one policy, which is a violation of the law also. And we can liquidate that policy. That means the courts, the sheriff, the street people, the child protection services, they're all out of business. None of them can operate because without an insurance policy or a bond, they're not secured, and that's part of the public trust. We are the beneficiaries of the public trust, and we have to be secure that they are not going to commit tyranny upon us. That's the purpose of all of this. And so we're going to eliminate them. And luckily for us, they chose a blanket policy. So we're going to wipe out the entire government of Lorain County. And with that, hopefully with enough enthusiasm from what we've done already, that our ranks swell in the Lorain County so we can appoint people into those positions. And why can we do that? The reason we could do that is because the Lorain Committee of Safety is the only de jure government in the county. And the Ohio State Bureau is the only lawful state government in the state of Ohio. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit. Ohio is probably going to be the next state to rise up into the republic. The only reason that's going to happen is that we have 22 counties already settled on the land. We have the state assembly settled on the land, and we have done a lot of the groundwork that needs to be done at all the state levels. Okay, so then we have to get the momentum going to raise up the 30,000 people that we need under the Northwest Ordinance. So that's just getting out and communicating. And with this video, I think that's going to happen here real quick. So I rest unless someone has some questions.
Yeah, the common law part of the you were talking about, should that, David, be included in the series of videos? I think it sounds like it would be important to be part of people understanding the common law that protects us, correct?
Correct. Okay, I'm going to talk about that for a second. There's
Sure.
many types of common law. There's many types of common law. But there's only one type of common law that it's effective for each man or woman, and that is the common law to I. And you make your own law, okay? Under God's, natural law, you cannot harm another man. You cannot trespass on another man's property. And when that happens, you have the right to bring claim against that man for the harm or for the trespass. And that's where your law comes in. But you can't do that unless you give notice. And to give you an example, it's like you have a piece of land and people park on it. You can't call the cops and say, hey, I want these cars towed, because you haven't given any notice. But once you put up no parking signs, now you have the right to enforce your law. That's your law, and you have the right to enforce it. Okay. I have
Right.
a 9-week training course on law common to I. I'd be more than happy to donate it to this cause, because the more people that understand law common to I, the better off we all are going to be. Because the police officer comes up to the side of your door to get driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. Did I harm anyone? No. Did I trespass? No. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't break any laws. So under the Fourth Amendment, I am secure in my paperwork. And oh, by the
Yeah.
way, you have just harmed me, and I'm going to bring a claim. I'm going to lodge a claim against you for harassment, because I have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and you just interfered in that.
Right. So we need whoever are the people on this team that are mostly eligible or qualified to teach that part of the course should be in those videos. Number one. Number two, I think it would behoove all of us to start recruiting people that are in these agencies, whether they are kids, the people that come and kidnap your kids that work for Child Protective Services or your local police. Okay, bring them here to uneducate them and re-educate them so that we can start to take their foundations out so that their buildings can collapse.
Okay, as long as you can find those kind of people. I've talked to many sheriffs, and they're headstrong into their corporate belief, and they're not willing to waver in any way, shape, or form. So
I can tell you that the sheriff here in Brevard County happens to be a Q closet guy on many aspects. Not all of it, but on many aspects.
well, I had a shock in my life. I got pulled over by a state highway patrolman. This was several years ago, and I stood my square, and I wouldn't give up any information. And so they called out the Army, and this sergeant for the state highway patrol showed up, and we had a conversation. Of course, as soon as he threatened me, there was no more. And that's another thing people have to understand. When they threaten you, there's no more voluntary compliance. There is no contract. And they're dealing in commerce. And when they deal in commerce, it has to be a mutual exchange of information between one party and the other. When they threaten you, coerce you, or make demands upon you, that ends the contract. Now it's tyranny. Okay. So as soon as he threatened me, I go, oh, you're threatening me. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be harmed. And then I cooperated, because they had no case, because they lost their leverage of contract. So
Yeah.
when it was over with, they impounded my car, and the sergeant said, I'll give you a lift up to the Walmart, because it'll be easier for your party that's coming to pick you up, easier to find you. And I said, okay. So we got in the car, and we're not even 100 yards from the site. And he says, you and I aren't too far apart. And I go, what? How's that? Because he's all dressed up in a statey uniform, and his Smokey Bear hat on, and the whole bit, and sidearm and mace, and all that happy stuff. And he goes, if more people like you would stand up on your square like you did, he said, the whole world would change real fast. And he said, I'm with you on that. About blew me right out of the patrol car. So yeah,
Interesting.
they do exist, but they're not that
We all know
prevalent.
police officers, whether they're part of the family or acquaintances or a son or a daughter of a friend of yours. We all know police officers. We all know people that work for the corrupt, evil system. And I say, if you do know them, recruit them here because we have to literally re-educate them so that they understand that what they're doing is wrong. It's a lot easier to dismantle them once they understand that what they've been doing is wrong, once they've been re-educated, if that makes any sense.
Well, here's something that most people aren't aware of. If they have a bond, okay, first of all, if they have a bond, you go after the bond. And when you get their bond, which with the judgment gives you the right to get the bond from the insurance agent, they're done. They cannot hold any political office ever again. They're totally finished. Police
David.
officer, mayor, doesn't matter. You get their bond, they're done. Politically done, their career's over with. Same with the lawyer. You get their bond, lawyer can't practice law ever again. Okay.
David.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Thank you. Great discussion. I appreciate your and Mel's interaction there. But Carrie and Lynn have had their hands up for a while, and I think it would be good to, we've got 32 people involved here still, and it'd be kind of good to stir the pot a little bit and allow a few others to speak a bit.
Yeah, I'm fine. I rest.
All right.
So now, this
Thank you.
afternoon, Molly reached out and she really wants to get involved with, you know, her state, Jimmy, he's in Texas, but all these other states. And she feels like she's got a lot to offer in the financial side of this, is getting this, you know, some finances to all the states that really want to go forward. And from what I've seen, if we don't have the money, nothing's happening. So we can talk about all this and we can do a lot of sweat equity and we can put videos together and we can educate people, and that's great. However, for this to really move as fast as it needs to move, is what she was kind of talking about. You know, she wants to help. And so what is the next step for her and her organization with Jimmy to do some like financial stuff and some education? She's, you know, well, Mal, you know her more than I do, but I'm thinking she could really offer a lot to all the states that haven't done what Tennessee has done. Can you speak to that or reach out to her and plug her in? At
Which lady was this?
Molly. Molly said
Molly.
she
Oh,
and
Molly
Jimmy want to
Elmore.
get
Molly
involved
Elmore. Yeah, yeah.
with the
Yeah, yeah.
financial side of this, helping states get going, because none of this is going to get off the ground if we just talk about it and have some videos, and that's all great. And education is great, but like this has to get going. And she wants to know what she can do and who are we reaching out to. So I, you know, I put it to
Yeah,
you.
we
'Cause you know
definitely
her.
want to get, yeah, we definitely want to get her and her entire team involved because
Yes.
they will see eye to eye on a
Yes.
lot of things that are being discussed here for sure. And they do bring a lot of simplicity to what you're trying to achieve. Speed and accuracy is going to be
Yes.
important going forward,
So
and
who does she go
the
to, Lynn, or
educational process.
who should she be directed to?
You mean Molly?
Yeah, Lynn,
Molly,
who's the,
I can put you in touch directly with Molly.
I know, but who does
Carrie.
Molly reach
Carrie-
out to in this
Carrie,
organization?
Oh, Jimmy Valley, Jimmy Valley from Val Hill
No, no, no,
Capital.
I can talk to her, Carrie.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Eric and I can talk to her. I wanted to just say real quick, I did a disservice to Charles and I did not properly introduce him. I don't think, he will be our expert on the call. And so I really wanted to give him an opportunity to speak. But first, I want to say thanks so much, Dave, for that synopsis of what you did yesterday. I did watch it on Ann Vandersteel and it was awesome. I'm real proud of you. But I think Eric's face is here again, so I want to give him a chance. But Charles, I'd love for you to either close us out, or I'd really like for you to kind of share with the group if you have a vision of how we move forward with your call and your, you know, what you want to see happen. Because I know you've put a lot of thought and effort into this, and I don't want that to go unnoticed. And everyone's here looking for, you know, some answers. And Carrie, while we do have to address the financial side, if we, the people, don't stand up, the money will just be sitting there useless. So they all work in tandem. So if we don't have the people, do you know what I'm saying? Like we need it all to happen at the same time. So we do need the education desperately. So I yield.
Were you inviting Eric or myself or who, Lynn?
That's between y'all.
Please take the floor, Charles, please. I think I've said enough for today. Thank you.
Okay, are we coming close to the end here? Is this kind of a closing section?
You got the floor, buddy.
Okay, but are we closing up? Are we going to come to an end here soon?
Well, no, we've got the call on till 9. People can leave as they choose, but I just wanted to make sure everyone got their questions answered or heard or their voices heard. So I'd like for you to speak, and then if people have questions after you speak, or however you all want to do it.
Okay.
I want to make sure that you get in what you want to get in tonight.
Sure. And thank you, Lynn. And Eric, great introduction. There's a lot of talent here. And I'm optimistic that the group here is going to produce some real good work product soon. But that being said, I'd like to kind of shed my opinion about some of the nuts and bolts issues. There's a few traction points that especially I think David was raising there with, I think he used the phrase about dismantle county government or something like that. I would like to point out that most county government has a board of county commissioners or supervisors that are political subdivisions of the county. Okay, and frequently that's related to the precincts. In Texas, the county commissioners are the voices in the county government as representatives of the will of the precincts. So, and the precincts are the common law political subdivision of the county, and whoever is in that precinct level jurisdiction, and frequently the positions are vacant. You can just move right in and grab the microphone and nobody can challenge you except somebody else in your precinct. So when you start talking about dismantling county government, that's really cutting too hard and too deep. You don't have to come in with that big of a meat axe. All you got to do is assemble a few people that are willing to claim to be the constituents, the delegates of the vacant offices, of the leaders, of the precinct captains, of the precincts that constitutionally constitute the county governing body. The county court is an assembly, a constituent assembly of the leaders of the precincts. Okay, so you don't got to talk about dismantling county government. And that kind of freaks out the de factos. You start talking that way, and that goes clear on up, like Eric's talking about. We don't got to talk about dismantling the national government. We don't got to talk about dismantling state governments. All we got to do is elect delegates from the people, from their smaller political subdivisions, their constituent assemblies, and start percolating the consensus. It's consensus-based rule, like a common law jury. It's not majority rule, like the present de facto system. Once you understand things like it's not majority rule, it's consensus-based, and there's no I've said a lot there. I better throttle back. I don't want to overload anybody. I should yield there. I think I raised a few important issues. Perhaps Eric or somebody else would like to jump in. Dave, Mel, anybody. I yield.
Thank you, Charles. I'll take the floor for just a moment. That's exactly right. We don't have to dismantle. What we do is we manage. Okay, that's our job here, is we the people assemble at the grassroots level and build consensus. And through that consensus, we become the electors. And as the electors, we have the jurisdiction, the superior standing to enforce. And it's just a matter of education. In fact, I had dinner with a commissioner here in Tennessee the other night, and he's part of a coalition of county commissioners that have heard what's going on and been aware for some time. And reached out once they knew that the assembly had noticed the governor and said, what do we do to correct our office so that we can be in line with the rule of law? We don't want to find ourselves in violation. We want to serve our people according to the rule of law. So what can we do to assist, and what can we do to help? And those gentlemen that are willing to step up in that de facto position and convert themselves into the de jure, they are the ones that we want to work with. And they're there. There's many of them. We just have to be very responsible. And so if Carrie would, I'd like, Carrie, with your permission, and if you would share the notice that was delivered by Tennesseans to R.eel.E, that way they can see that this is not an aggressive thing. We weren't trying to threaten or to dismantle. We want him to correct his office or vacate. It's his choice. And he just needs to give us de jure segregation, realize that we're the superior authority and they have a want for jurisdiction in matters regarding us. It's very simple. It's very easy for them to comprehend, and that's why they're coming to the table. I yield.
Yeah. That notice is on the website. I'm trying to, let me just paste it into the chat. If I can.
Also, Carrie, just so you're aware, ma'am, I shared your contact information with Ann Vandersteel, so she'll probably be reaching out to you. She'd like to get a copy of that notice, and she may want to have you on the show if you're interested. I yield.
I'll send, yeah, that's great. Okay. Let me send that. Let's see here. Okay. Well, anyway, it's not cooperating with me right now. I'm trying to send it into the chat. I can read it. Why don't I just read it? How about that? Let's see. Okay. It says, notice, as the people of Tennessee, we have reoccupied the vacated offices of the de jure republic and reestablished the common law jurisdiction owed to the people on this day, June 11th, 2024. We are hereby noticing the governor of the state of Tennessee of our existence and our cause. It is our intent to inform you of our right to be de jure segregation and self-determination. We, the people of the Republic State of Tennessee, after a history of repeated injuries to the people, violations and usurpations to the constitutions of Tennessee, United States, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, have determined that the state of state is in fact a corporation that is for profit, and that the very courts of said state of state are also for profit in direct violation of the supreme law of the land. As stated in the Declaration of Independence, that when such a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuant invariably the same object evases a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government. It is not our intent to throw off, but to correct. The state of state has become a tool of tyranny and cannot be left to its current course of despotism any longer. Our grievances are vast, but to summarize that list for sake of forests, holding elections that are unlawful and without proper representation was number one. Number two, denial of health freedoms and body autonomy. Number three was the pollution of the public waterways. Number four, the addition of fluoride and arsenic to our water supply. Number five, the pesticides that are sprayed on crops. Number six, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, the contamination of our food supply by adding poisons and human fetal tissue, fetal cells, has put us in violation of God's law. 8, the performance of state-sponsored abortions. 9, the promotion of ideologies that contradict social norms and natural law. Next, page 2, crony capitalism geared toward this suppression and eventual collapse of small town America, allowing China to come into our state and buy property, allowing the UN to carry out its agenda for replacement migration, in parentheses, state-sponsored invasion, taxation without representation, and misappropriations of funds. The misrepresentation of law and its application through administrative process, intentionally dumbing down of our children to make a more easily suppressed citizenry, the use of Child Protective Service as a stream of revenue, the passing of legislation that you know full and well that you cannot enforce, all as a ruse to fool the masses into thinking you actually care about our well-being, i.e. chemtrails and federal annulment, as though the 10th Amendment isn't sufficient enough. Implementation of 5G and smart technology, knowing full well the health hazards to humans. In summary, we respectfully demand that you correct these issues, submit to the civilian authority, and bring your office into accordance with the supreme law of the land. And we, the people, expect a prompt response to address these issues and concerns. Failure to do so will compel us to pursue further actions in accordance with the statutes at large, constitutions of Tennessee, and the United States of America. Sincerely. And there were 12 signatures on that document.
Bravo. Everybody should be saying bravo. That was excellent. Excellent.
So we did it. And I know Eric had a meeting yesterday, and so we're well on our way. And we're just open to ideas. Everyone has creativity and has creative ideas, and we're open to implementing those. But we realize that we need to be steady as we go, as this is a steady progression. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we don't expect anything to happen quickly. On the contrary, we want people to come as they're ready, as they resonate with this, and we're just going to be steadfast in our pursuit as we go forward. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? I think we want to try to wrap up soon if no one else has any other further questions.
Yeah, my hand's been raised. I had a quick question.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, with regards to the point that Eric made and a couple of people have made regarding it's not based upon majority rule, but consensus. Just to clarify, is that consensus based upon the 30-person assembly?
I believe that's what he's meaning. Yes. Charles, if you want to clarify that, because you're more of an expert in this than I am.
Yeah, and just for the benefit of the people in general, I think moving forward, it would always be good to clarify that and make that clear to people, the significance of the 30 people and the fact that it's a consensus of them. Thank you. I yield.
I could speak to that. The what the consensus is in the Declaration of Independence, second paragraph, where it says the consent of the governed, and that comes from the assemblies, the committees of safety. And the committees of safety are the sovereign electors, and they're the de jure government that needs to stand up and be placeholders in the government as we remove certain individuals for lack of performance in violation of the Constitution, the laws of the Constitution. Therefore, we put the sovereign electors into those positions. When they take a position, they can no longer be an elector until 1 year after they remove themselves from that position. Then they come back in as sovereign electors. Does that answer your question?
Yes, the question was answered. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else have their hands raised? I'm looking. Okay.
Charles, do you want to weigh in on that?
Was that my name you said, Claire?
Yes.
All right. there's a lot there, and I was a bit distracted when the conversation was going at its best. But well, the 30s. Apparently, there's an assembly of 30 someplace that's already been set in motion. And I've got a document on my webpage called Organic Hierarchies, and what we're looking for, the art of self-governance, it gets into metaphysical, spiritual complexities that it's very helpful for people that have had some time studying the Bible and some of the particular passages therein, particularly the book of Revelation, referencing 144,000 is the number of the assembly for New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven, and as above, so below, as the Freemasons well know. We're supposed to mirror the divine image. Israel had 12 tribes. Christ had 12 disciples. And if you read the part of the New Testament where the loaves and the fishes were being divided amongst the multitude, Christ was organizing the about 6,000 people, the verses say, under the political divisions mentioned in the Exodus 18 model of the 50s and the hundreds. So there's organizational structure here with a lot of detail. Okay, and basically the basic format is multiples of 12s and 10s. That's how the 144,000 is organized. At the upper levels, the 12 tribes of Israel, that's 12s. States and national level organizing and earthwide, those should all, the higher levels where threats of nuclear war and big things are on the table, we want to have a fuller body for a more solemn assembly. But at the lower grassroots level, you can move more quickly and efficiently if it's just 10s. That's why the Exodus 18 model is so important, because it percolates up from the grassroots through the 10s, and then the really serious hardball spiritual metaphysical warfare goes on in the larger assemblies of the 12s. Okay, and an important phrase is the concept, quote, of constituent assemblies. And I'm delighted to see Daniel Johns here, because Daniel is plugged right into this stuff. He knows how the Exodus 18 model, biblical Torah law, is part of our American system of constitutional common law. And so it's a cakewalk if we can just get organized here, everybody. So I'm optimistic, but it's a consensus building process. And if you've already got a constituent assembly, basically moving forward with 30s, and it's smaller than the county level. I don't know if you're working with something at the state. If you're at the state level, you should probably try to assemble 12 out of that 30 to be in a leadership position, and then just have their constituents at the next lower level at the counties, assuming the levels of precinct captains and stuff. But if it's at the county level and smaller, you can start out with just a smaller assembly of 10. And yeah, that's the quick and dirty answer. I should probably yield at that point. Comments, questions, anybody? I'm available. I yield.
Daniel, you have your hand up?
Dan, go ahead.
Yeah. So far, really great comments by everybody. As Charles says, I've been studying this stuff for a long, long time, but mostly from the biblical side. I believe the Bible and the teachings of our Creator apply in every area of our life. And one of the things that I've noticed since I've been in the Patriot movement since the 90s and been to an awful lot of rallies, you very rarely hear people talk about the fact that this is a spiritual war. Okay. The things that are going on are judgments against the people that have rebelled against the common law, which is biblical law. Okay. It was called common because it's common to all of us. It's common, it comes from the Father down to us. It's common. It's not a man-made thing. This is our Creator gave us the law. We were never given the right to create new law. Show me in Scripture where it says we have the right to do that. The only thing we ever had the right to do was to create statutes to implement God's law, to assist in the enforcing of His law. And too many times we don't seem to get the fact all this is a judgment against us for turning our backs on our Creator, thinking that we could be gods unto ourselves and create new law, man-made law. And that's when we got into this big mess. We're in a big sandbox and they control the sand. And we're trying to operate as the children of the Creator in their sandbox. And that's never going to work. So we have to remember this at the very root of this thing, it is a spiritual war. And these are the attributes that come down on a people that have turned their back on their Creator. Okay. Too many people, I've seen it when I was in the United States Air Force, when I was in the electrical power industry as an engineer. Okay. The corporate mentality going through the society to where we are much like our ancestors, we worship mammon, which is money, material things. The average American, that's all they care about. And so, first of all, everybody associated with this effort going forward, at least from my point of view, they have to be on the right spiritual plane or it won't work. That's my opinion. And so there has to be an effort to make sure that we are, I like the word radamanthine. Okay. That's a word I accidentally found in the dictionary one day looking for another word. Radamanthine means to be strictly and uncompromisingly just. And when I saw this word, I was in my almost 70 years old and I'm going, how come I've never heard of this word? It's because it doesn't apply to anybody. To be strictly and uncompromisingly just, that left America before I was born because everybody's a liar. Everybody's out for profit. Everybody's out for gain. That's how we got led into all this. So for any of this to work, we have to basically repent. The word repent means rethink. Okay. And as Charles said, this is all going back to Old England. The very word sheriff comes from reef of the shire reef. That's the head magistrate at the shire level. Okay. So the very word sheriff comes from Old England and the common law. He was the highest magistrate at that level. Okay. And a lot of these other things. Okay. Why do bankruptcy laws every 7 years? That's right out of Scripture. As Charles said, the number 12. Why are there 12 jurors? Because it comes right out of Scripture. The judge doesn't judge anybody. It's the jurors, the 12 people. In the old days, the sheriff went out with 12 posse members. Why? Because that was his jury. The jury went out with the sheriff to make sure the sheriff did not do anything wrong. Number one. And then if the sheriff was correct, if he was righteous in what he was doing, then the posse was there to assist the sheriff. So, I mean, you see the fingerprints of this biblical aspect in everything that we've been talking about. And to me, we have to get back to the basics. We have to keep it very basic. And that's part of the problem with the patriot groups that I've been involved with. They're very detail oriented. They get very deep into all this stuff and it goes right over the heads of most of the people we're trying to reach. When Yeshua, the Christ, walked this earth, he kept things very simple. He didn't talk from a book. He didn't have a prepared speech. He spoke from the heart, just like we should do, and get the message out very, very simply and very, very quickly. And the Spirit testifies to the truth. So if we are being honest and truthful, the people that really matter in this world will resonate with that and they will understand that. Because my personal opinion is we're late in the game. We're very late in this game. We don't have much time for people to go grab 6 volumes of books and bring themselves up to speed with all the history and all the nuances of common, etc. The average person doesn't have the time, the energy, or the money nowadays. We have been under the thumb of the oppressor for a very long time. And so we're very near the end of this thing. So people just have to pull up their bootstraps, repent, realize where we need to be, get right with our creator. And personally, we have to make sure that everybody in our circle, whether it's this circle here or our friends in the neighborhood, make sure everybody in your circles of like mind. We have to disassociate with those who are part of what I call the zombies out here, the soy boys, the New World Order crowd, whatever you want to call them. Okay, they're anti-God, anti-moral, and we're on the other side of the fence. We're with Yeshua, the Christ, and we're saying, no, we have to be right. We have to do things biblically. We have to be honest. We have to be righteous. Well, they don't believe in all that. First of all, they don't believe in God. They don't believe there's a moral code. They want to be just like Adam and Eve in the garden. We can be a God unto ourselves. I want to eat what I want to eat. I want to do what I want to do. And I can make my own law. And we have to repent of that, okay? First of all, we chose a long time ago to ask for kings, which means man's law. When we had a king sitting on high who gave us law, so he was our judge, our jury, and our lawgiver. He was all of it. And we didn't want that. We wanted an earthly king, and he told us through the prophets what would happen. We're living it right now. Everything he warned us about. If you choose man to live under man's rule, this is what you're going to get. My proposal is let's win this war. First of all, we're not going to govern anything if we don't win the war and we don't subdue our enemies. Okay, and then let's get under a theocracy. Choose the right leaders, simplify our society, because the law of Moses, as Charles will tell you, all government should be at the local level, not centralized, never centralized, at the local level. And you have civil court proceedings where you have tribunals with 3 judges maybe or whatever, or you have a jury with just a referee, no person called a judge, have a jury, etc. And you settle your disputes at the local level. Okay, we have way too much government. We have way too many rules. Even with people with decent IQs are sitting here scratching their head going, what the hell have we got going on here? Again, it's their sandbox. And I've been in the courtrooms, I've done battle with them, and they know that it's basically overwhelming. They've created so many rules, regulations, etc. It can be whatever they say because you don't have the time to go down to the library and look at it and search it out. They know that. The average person isn't going to do it. So they win everything in their little sandbox. And they've got the guys with the badges and the guns thinking that the system is the one that has the right to be in charge. Well, we know that's not true. Okay, as Eric has said, and Charles and the rest of the group in here, we are the power. That's what posse comitatus means, the power of the county. Okay, we are the power, and they have committed a mind screw, if you want to call it that. That's vernacular, but they've been doing it to our heads. They've got us brainwashed to think that we owe allegiance to this misfit group of people out here, when in reality we don't. I mean, if nothing else, COVID proved that. I mean, look how many people, I was ashamed, even of my own family, how many people acquiesced and put that diaper over their face for no good reason, just because somebody with supposedly a position of quote authority told them they should do it. And how many people went along with it, let alone how many people put an injection into their arms that was never tested, never even guaranteed, etc. Because people have to grow up. They have to become warriors again. Okay.
Thanks, Danielle. I just wanted to let everyone know we're bumping up on 9 o'clock here. We got 8 more minutes. So if anybody that hasn't spoken yet would like to say something, or anyone else, or if somebody wants to close us out in prayer, that'd be great. Thanks for coming, everyone.
I've got a quick question if you guys have a minute. I live in San Diego, and this is the hotspot right now for the illegal flood of, basically our nation's getting swamped with the global south. And from what I've read, there's upwards of 50 million, probably more, people living in this country illegally. And people are always talking about we the people, but I don't really hear much talk about removing these people that are not we the people just because they happen to have illegally crossed a border, and what's going to be done to get rid of them, because this is going to collapse our country, and there's not going to be any constitutional government to be writing petitions to and having them obey the law and the commerce law when everything is descended into chaos because of this invasion. And it just, I'm not just trying to say, oh, it's all hopeless or anything like that, but I mean, like, this is a clear and present danger. Like, it's in my backyard. I went to the airport the other week and there was a line of 50 people all smoking cigarettes, and they got their papers, and they were trying to cram into a shuttle bus I was going to take to the airport that had like 10 people in it. And these people don't even belong here. You know, bus loads are being dumped off in my downtown, like right now as I'm talking. And I'm not trying to be alarmist, but like, I mean, this is really serious. And I've attended a lot of these meetings and a lot of these calls, and it's just not something that is, it's almost like it's ignored because of maybe it's unpleasant to think about, or maybe they think, oh, we can't talk about that because it's too controversial. But you know, from my perspective, like, this is kind of all like just not an educational exercise, but I'm trying to think of what the words for it are. You know, anyways, it's like an exercise that is going to be meaningless unless there is action to remove these invaders. So, I mean, does anybody want to make a comment on what the path forward would be for ejecting literally 50 million or more people living here illegally, and so that this country can be taking back control of the people it was founded and created for? Not the entire freaking world. It's for Americans, for heritage Americans. That's why our forefathers came here and set this country up. It wasn't for the entire world.
Beth, do you want to speak to that question? I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to speak to what Seth was asking?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I can't remember the name of the guy before Seth too. Okay, I worked long and hard on this whole idea in 2008. Okay, when Obama usurped our entire government, I didn't know the Bushes were a usurpation. Anyway, God said, like the previous guy said, okay, we got here because we didn't live according to God's ways. I tell my group all the time, we indicted everybody in the county for all the fraud, for trafficking of children that we knew about, funneling them out. But I said, okay, now we have to go love our neighbors. We have to take care of the people who are financial refugees, kicked out of the rental houses that they were in, so that, you know, people who violated the laws in other states could come buy these properties and live here and not have their insurance bond yanked. Okay. God will take care of everything if we take care of our neighbors. That's it. It's so simple. Start a process of taking care of people, and the trend will catch on. And pretty soon we won't need so much government. That's all I want to say. Don't go back to school. If they don't have God within them, we can't move forward in freedom. Liberty comes from God, period. I yield.
Well, I guess what I want to say is that from the short time I've been on this journey, what I have been learning from Eric is that now that we have stepped outside of the sandbox, then we have gone back into our sovereignty with the de jure government, that now we have the military that has been working behind the scenes, like General Michael Flynn and so forth, because Eric did have a meeting with one of his right-hand men. I don't want to name the name, but he did have a meeting. And what Eric was informing us at our meetings is that now that we've stepped back into the legal law of the land, the common law, the supreme law of the land, now they can step in and help to facilitate, as they've got our back, if you will, that now they can do what they need to do to help facilitate this process of, you know, however they're going to do it. You know, the military, they are here to uphold the Constitution and the common law, and we the people. So that's my comprehension, is how they will help facilitate that and moving those people back to their countries. What that looks like, how long that takes, I don't know. But because Eric shared that with me, I wanted to share that with you. And then we can have another conversation next week and maybe go from there. But
That's
hopefully
true. That's
answers.
true. It is the law of war manual says that if the people don't rise up, the military can't come out.
Correct. So it's the Law of War Manual and 11.3, 11.4, 11.5. So I think, Michael, you have your hand up. Michael T.
Yes, this is Michael Taylor out of Ohio, and I was not able to get to Dave's meeting last night, but I think that's what we need to be doing. And we, with the immigration issue that was it Eric or Seth just brought up, we have so many laws that are put forth by the de facto and so much put forth by the de facto. We need to educate all the people. And I don't know how to best address, we've had a couple of discussions about that, about illegals, but how to best address that, especially when some of those illegals are mercenaries and here to invade and do harm. Others are just escaping and trying to get a better opportunity. Others are released from jail and are psychopaths, or have psychological problems and so on. We have our share of psychopaths already natural born in this land and opposing the Constitution, and the punishment for that tyranny is firing squad or hanging. So that will eliminate some of those if that's what's going to go on. But we are in need of more and more people to join us. And I think that we need to be educating, like you guys have been talking about, we need to be educating people and coming to the place where whether they're illegal or not, we might want to think about that aspect of protecting our neighborhoods, our families. What are we getting prepared for here with all the diverse talk about what's going on in our country from the mainstream media and other people that are on the conservative side of the media that are a lot of the population that are armed and not aware of how to stand up as a man on the land or a woman on the land. So I yield.
Was that you, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see your hand go down. It's Michael with Righteous Army. I appreciate the points you just made there. And to Seth's point and your point, the big problem we have, obviously, I refer to it over and over and over again. The New World Order, one world government agenda, they're trying to control everything. They're the ones that infiltrated, hijacked this country. We know who they are. At least many of us know who they are, where they come from, what they're about, and what they're trying to do. They are the godless. They're the godless, immoral, bad bloodline, Canaanite, Edomites, Revelation 2:939, fake Jews. That's who they are. They own the Fed, they own the world banks, they own Hollywood, they own television, and they're controlling everything. And they've perverted this nation and turned it into filth. They've turned it into Satan's den of iniquity. So yes, the vast majority, unfortunately, of the American people have been dumbed down, stupefied. They only care about money, making money, ego. We're the select few, I dare I say, along with Charles, the remnants, who are trying our best to take a peaceful approach, a lawful and peaceful approach to right the ship. Dan and Eric as well have pointed out that there are many people ready to go to arms and do something about it. But that's what they want. That's playing right into their hand. They want a bloody civil war here. They want to kill us off. So it behooves all of us to be doing everything we can to get as many people as we can onto these meetings Thursday night, because I know for certain, there was 40 earlier, there's 20 now. I don't know how many are still on here that I invited on. I believe there's a few still here. I know there was a few earlier that are gone now. I know it's tough to hang on to these, meetings for hours on end, but we all need to do our best to get everybody into this meeting because of everything I've looked at over the last 4 years in terms of a genuine effort being put forth to try to right the ship of what we understand to be. I always say like this, short of Revelation 21, where the kingdom of God is coming down upon the earth and only those who walk in his commands and are righteous get to walk through the pearly gates. That's what many of us are looking forward to. That's what I'm for. Short of that, the best thing we have going on is this Republic for the United States of America movement. I expressed my concerns earlier, yes, about whether that's been infiltrated, hijacked. The same New World Order people are trying to control it. They're trying to implement all this social media, this money. The gentleman earlier indicated that that's not going to be the case. Well, that's yet to be seen. If that's, initially, they're not going to make it appear that that's going to be the case. But once they have such a system implemented, they can certainly creep it in slowly but surely. So that's always been a major concern of mine and others that I know. So we are the 20 right now, and there's others out there that aren't on this call, but we need to do our best to try to get all of us across the nation to organize on these meetings with the Republic for the United States of America. Because frankly, even if they're being controlled, like Eric said, you know what? That's the way the world's going. They got their monetary system. Everything's going digital because they've got technology now. I don't agree with it. I don't think they should do away with cash. They should always have alternate currencies, not just digital, because they can control us that way completely, and eventually merge that reality into being, which is what they ultimately want to do. So we have to be mindful of that, but we need to be getting as many of us like-minded persons as possible to continue organizing and gathering, not only on this Zoom meeting, but again, state to state, county to county, like Eric's been doing. He's done an incredible job going county to county throughout the states, getting counties to recognize that they're part of a corporation. They need to unincorporate. They need to go back to common law. So, I mean, just the fact that we're having this discussion, I hope everybody takes this video and they send it out to their email list. And hopefully thousands of people will hear this call tonight because there was a lot of great information on it. But they certainly want the destruction of God's people. They want the destruction of the United States, which theoretically was one nation under God. They've destroyed that. That's just a bogus slogan now. This isn't one nation under God by no means any longer, but there are still those that are of God in this nation. And we're trying to right the ship, right? We're trying to say, you know what? Do we wait for God to appear in the clouds with angels and he's going to take care of it all? Or does he do it through his people? We know biblically he did it through his people. So we need to get that message out. Everything that's been discussed tonight needs to get out to all of America. I yield.
Mike, I love your passion. It's amazing to hear you. Seth, I just wanted to tell you that one thing that Mike touched on there with Eric going to all those counties, what he has expressed in other meetings that you may or may not have been on, there are hundreds of thousands. Eric has even claimed millions in this country that are just waiting to be, I guess I'll say, activated, for lack of a better word. So if there's some invasion or some issue, there's people ready to come to our aid. We, of course, have to jump in and lock arms with them and protect them as well. But we do have protection. And part of Eric's plan, his longer term, wide range plan, is having peace officers and these continental marshals. And there are people that are going to be on the ground very soon in those roles. You may not see them, but they will be ready to, answer. Now, I know if someone, sets those people loose and there's millions, no, we are probably powerless. But if that doesn't happen, we at least have more. I just want you to know that according to Eric's estimation, there's a lot more than we think. We think we sit on these armies because there's, our islands, I'm sorry, because we have 20 people on this call, like Mike just said, and it does feel very lonely. And I mean, honestly, before we had our Tennessee folks come on this call, there was been weeks where we had like 7 people, so it is kind of a pathetic and pitiful representation. So I don't know if we're just not doing the job to get these messages out there. We're trying our hardest, but they're out there. I don't necessarily believe it either, because I like to touch and see and feel things, and someone tells me it's a fact and I don't believe it until it's real. So I've not seen the manifestation of these people, but I got to believe that they're out there somewhere, or we just have to take it upon ourselves. I don't think that's any comfort to you, Seth. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to share that. I yield.
Well, regarding this military thing, and I'll make quick because I got to too, is that, I've been hearing for like 8 years that, there's people secretly in the military, they're waiting just for the right moment to come out of the wings and save us. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's more like, forgive my cynicism, but like people leading you on believing that the kidnap victim is still alive, until they try to collect the ransom when they're planning on killing, or that, the kidnap victim's dead anyway. So I have like zero faith that the military is just waiting in the wings, coming to rescue us. I think that's nonsense. And I think it's like a cope and a way to pacify people until it is too late to do something. So I'm just personally, I'm kind of, a little tired about hearing that. And I think it's a way for people to cope with the ugly reality of the situation because they don't want to grapple with how ugly it is.
Well, I didn't say military, and if I did, I should correct myself. I think it's the militia. Different
Okay,
than the
well, I
military.
mean, there's a huge difference between the military and the
Did
militia,
I say
right? But
military? I'm so sorry if I said it.
but
Words, I'm tired. But
you got to have an
militia.
organization. I mean, the whole key of the militia is organization, and a lot of times that's disrupted and subverted by federal authorities and things like that. It's very tough to get one of those things going because they're full of either paid informants or people that are actively working on it. So and how are we going to communicate with a surveillance grid that's set up? Like it was like pulling freaking teeth to get people to use secure communications applications. They don't want to do it. And it's just it's extremely frustrating. It's like, how are you going to prevail against the enemy if you can't even secure your communications against them? You're done, you're cooked. And they're like, and man, you would think I would be asking people to amputate one of their limbs to get them to use one of these secure apps. It's crazy, like the disconnect there. I just don't understand it. So anyways, it's not a big rant about that, but I almost, I guess I'm kind of losing my train of thought. I don't, it's just personal for me because our neighbors across the street were like, oh yeah, we got to fill in at the church today. I was like, why is that? Oh, well, they're friends or family friends. This guy's a Navy SEAL, and their 5-year-old daughter, while they were asleep, an illegal border crosser snuck into their home, robbed them, and raped their 5-year-old daughter. And snuck out. And the only reason that they caught him is because he came back a few days later after the guy had put up cameras. This guy's a Navy SEAL, right? And that's just a few miles away from where I live that happened. And like, oh, is he, and the public officials here will not admit that he's an illegal, I don't even call it illegal immigrant, but they're like trying to stonewall it and not say that he's here legally. And all you got to do is put the name in, and because anybody that's been living in the United States has such a long data trail, it's like you're going to hit one of these 50+ data brokers that has anybody that's ever registered to vote or got married or whatever. All that information is hoovered up and sucked out and spit up by these data brokers. It's almost impossible to get off these lists. Believe me, I've been trying for like years now. And so it's not that hard to determine for yourself. And like, I don't know. I guess the term I was looking for earlier is that sometimes this stuff just feels like an academic exercise. And I'm not saying, oh, go out and, start the bloody revolution right now. But unless these people that are promoting these tactics, like have like a concrete plan to remove the tens of millions of people that are in this country legally, like I think we're in for some really rough times. And I don't think any of these legal processes are going to be where you want to be spending your time because there's opportunity costs, right? You can only have X amount of time to dedicate to things. And I'm not going to invest like hours of a week learning how to complete legal processes when what really should be doing is like reloading ammo and training and, maybe moving out and run for the hills. I don't know, I mean, that cell phone outage that we had a couple months ago, that was a signal, according to Eric Prince, if you listen to his podcast, Off Leash with Eric Prince, that was a signal from the Chinese, like, look, we're inside your networks. We can turn off your cellular communications networks at will. It was a test. It was a dry run, so, and how many people these days that have a landline? And they're trying to take those away out here. AT&T started that in Florida. They're trying to decommission all the copper landlines, so you're not going to have any form of communication if the cells go down. Maybe internet if that stays up, but it's like, dude, I mean, it's alarming. Anyways, that's all I got to say for right now. I appreciate what Mike and everybody's trying to do here. I do. I'm not just trying to sit here and like be a black pill demoralizer, but I have to like, I mean, I'm just honestly expressing the way I feel because I have these grave concerns and I'm wondering if anybody else does and anybody's thought of this and like, and what are they thinking about it? Because I don't see any younger people involved in these calls. It's all I'm 50. I mean, I don't feel that old, but like most of the people are my age or older. I don't see any young people doing any of this stuff, and we're not going to have a bunch of I'm past my fighting years. Okay, it's like it's not these people are going to be taking up arms in the militia. Most of these people in the calls, So who's going to be doing? Are they having they're training their kids? You know, what's going on?
Yep, I
Anyways,
guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Seth. No?
Yeah, well, gentlemen, I obviously was talking about me about the central bank digital currency, and then we're going back to that again because see, look, it would be easy for us to worry about it if they were to make an announcement and would have tangible proof evidence that they were deprogramming the XRP, the XLM, the XDC, the ISO tokens, the ones that are gold backed and Basel compliant, and they say we have to be compliant towards going through the central bank digital currency. In that case, yes, we would all be doomed and the Mexican standoff would be over, the cabal would win, and we would have something to worry about. But to send out the message to them that we are worried about them is the wrong approach. I think what we need to do is let them know that we are educated. We understand how these tokens really do work, and let them know that we know that their days are numbered. We let them know that their turkey is cooked and they should take it out of the oven. Otherwise, it's going to burn. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at as far as that's concerned. I think that there's a lot of people worried about a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be worried about. And it comes down to a lack of knowledge, to be quite honest with you. And I do have a black belt in this particular subject. And that's what we teach at QFS1776.com. And that's where we put the most elementary videos together, which is what I'm asking you guys to do, is to put a elementary video series that educates the people what it is and where it's going, and how to prepare. But to say that, you know, these bad people, the evil people, still have a chance of beating us, I think is the wrong message. I believe that not only are we winning by a lot, but I think we're literally in a mop-up operation, whether the army, the militia are working together, whether they're working together with Trump, that all remains to be seen. However, I think that if the politicians of this country was to say, hey, turn your guns on the American people, and that order went down to the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, I think that would backfire on them spectacularly. And not only will those guns turn around onto the politicians, but I think those guns will be followed and joined by the militia and us, the people. And now they have a major problem on their hands.
Thanks, Mel.
Great.
I put my hand up because I wanted to say something. I agree with Mel 100%. And I also wanted to say something to rebuttal what righteousarmy.org. I'm sorry, I didn't know your name. Is it Michael? Righteous Army. Okay. And he was talking about God, and what we know from scripture is that God always used a remnant. Oh. He didn't have to have a lot. He used a remnant. And that's what we are right now. We are the remnant of God. And we are standing, even Gideon's army, it was 300. And there are more with us than are against us. So I just wanted to share that, to stay positive on this note. And what Mel is saying is absolutely correct. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes in the background that we're not privy to just yet, but I'm very familiar with Basel 3, Basel 4, and the ISO 2022 and everything that's going on. Listen, I've been to the bank. My credit unions are already on the new system where you're sending money person to person. I can now send money from one credit union to another credit union to another bank. The bank is going away. It's going to be financial advisors or wealth management centers. The word bank is going to be gone because we don't need them. We make our own decisions. We are sovereign men and women. We make our own decisions on what we want to invest in, and sending money to person. That is the writing on the wall. It's already happening. But most people don't realize that it's already in place, because you take the cabal's money away, they got nothing. And that is essentially what's been happening, but it's slow going. It takes time to do it. And it's in the final stages of it. So that's the good news. So I would just want to leave that positive note. We are the remnant. We have been called for such a time as this, and God has everybody that he needs in this moment. We're right where we're supposed to be. So don't lose faith. Don't have fear, false evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. Don't have that. Stay focused on the task at hand. And I mean, I just believe in the positivity that things are looking up, and we do have people watching our back. We do have the support. God's heavenly hosts of army, angels and archangels, are here.
I yield.
Absolutely. Kerry, thank you. Thank you for that. And, you know, look, how many people here with a raise of hand, if you're not to raise your hand here in the chat room, believe that if the politicians of this world, or the Joe Biden clones, actors, robots, whatever the hell they are, okay, because I believe that these people have been dealt with. How many breadcrumbs do they need to send to you where the masks are wrinkling and this guy that's 78 years old gets up faster than the guy that's 32 years old? How many breadcrumbs do they need to send to you to where you say, okay, that's physically impossible? 'Cause I'm headed for 61, okay? And I know that I can't get up that fast if I was to fall going up stairs on an airplane. Okay, so how many breadcrumbs do they need to tell you that when, for example, Donald Trump goes to an RV company that manufactures recreational vehicles in Missouri and turns around and says to his wife, I think we're going to get ourselves one of these recreational vehicles and go tour the country. The guy that does his business on a 24 karat gold toilet seat is not going to travel in an RV. Again, it's a breadcrumb. You
Thanks,
feeling
Mel.
me? Okay.
I just want to give Daniel the floor. He's had his hand raised for quite some
Sure.
time now. Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to address what Seth was concerned about, and I'm going to get back to, again, if we do repent, if we do become the righteous army that Ezekiel tells us about in chapter 37, and Malachi 4 talks about it as well, we implement God's law, that takes care of the whole problem. Okay, these invaders are here because they're paid to be here. All right, the government assists them, gives them housing, gives them water, gives them food, transportation, and there's nobody holding them accountable. Well, if we take control of our nation again and we operate under God's law, they're not going to get any handouts. They're not going to get any housing. They're not going to get any incentives. They're not going to get transported up to our borders. The borders are going to be tight. They're going to be armed. They're going to be guarded. And those that we find in our land, they are considered spies. And spies are treated with one solution. It's called a rope. Okay? So they're either going to run for the border to get the hell out of here, or we're going to take them to the nearest tree and hang them. So the problem will go away almost overnight. All right? So again, the solutions to our problems are very, very easy. The problem with the American people has been, for the past probably 5 decades, we've been so busy entertaining ourselves and having a good time that when guys like me stood up and said, you want to get rid of these people that are causing the problem, you do it because you have to be strict. You have to hold them accountable. I was laughed at. I was told that, oh, you're too mean. You should be nice. They're just trying to get a better life. No, they violated the law. They have come across the border illegally. Most of them are either soldiers or criminals, and they've committed acts that God's law commands that they be eliminated. And if we just hold everybody from government to the invaders to the church to the medical mafia, hold them accountable. That's all we have to do. This whole country will change within 24 hours. The problem has been, in my 71 years of walking this earth, we haven't held anybody accountable for anything. So there's your answer. Just start. First of all, it starts with the guy in the mirror. You hold that guy accountable. Now you start making your neighbor and the councilman and the precinct captain and the county commissioners and the governor accountable. And when they violate the law, strict punishment. By you.
Thank you, Daniel. Beth, we're going to have you be the last person to speak. And then if Carrie, would you like to close us out in prayer when Beth is done?
Thank you.
Yep.
I think that we serve the purpose of the Bar Association members who are financing. We have for-profit courts. They're financing these non-government organizations to bring all these illegal immigrants across the border. We have plenty of federal employees who are allowing them across the border. The people coming across the border are not our biggest enemy. you need to look at Executive Order 13848. That will tell you that the foreign agents who are here, do you know that when you take a bar association, become a bar association member, you relinquish your US citizenship? Trump isn't talking about deporting these people coming across the border. He's talking about deporting the criminals who have done so many crimes against the American people, bar association members who don't enforce our Constitution. Now, you can make an enemy of all those people that come across the border if they bust them up in your small town like I have, okay? Or I tell my people, listen, we're going to bring them peace. We don't need to make them an enemy of our people. That is way harder to deal with. Maybe you got to go bring them food. You don't know how they got here. Did you ever watch American Sniper? I'm a former Army officer, okay? Did you ever watch American Sniper and see what we did in Iraq, door to door, looking for some terrorist? Bullshit. We are not the people that has to go pick on these poor people. I think some of these soldier age guys that Trump's talking about are here to remove the bar association members. They are the true enemies of the state. I yield.
Thank you, Beth. Go ahead, Carrie. Close us out.
Okay, we're going to close in prayer. So if everyone will just be in agreement. Father God, we just thank you for orchestrating this nation, Lord, and you have called us to stand up and to have faith and trust in you. And we are doing that right now. Everyone that has joined us today, they are doing the best of their ability to stand firm. And we are in agreement with your word because there are more that are with us than those that are against us. And Lord, you called a remnant to stand in this nation, the righteous, and that is us. And we trust in you and we honor you, God, and we're thankful for this great nation. And we're thankful for people that are coming forward every day to join us in coming back to the rightful law, supreme law of the land, the common law, the Constitution, that we've stepped out of this illegal corporation and we're standing as sovereign men and women, children of Almighty God. And the Spirit of God lives inside each and every one of us. And the Spirit of truth will guide us and direct us. So we thank you for your wisdom, your discernment to know what is from you and what is not from you and make right decisions accordingly. That you give us perfect communication as we go forward from this day forward of everyone we come in contact with, that we will be efficient in all that we say and do, oh God, for the efficiency of the kingdom. As it is above, so below. We're bringing heaven to earth and we're walking out the call that you have put on each and every one of our lives. And those that are in agreement, we say yes and amen, and so be it, and so it is. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Thank you, Carrie. One last thing. This is a recurring weekly call at 6:30 Eastern for, I don't know, about 3 hours, I guess we'll do, or however long it takes to get people's questions and concerns heard. So everyone should have an email either from me if you're in my master distribution list, or I know Michael has his own list and maybe some of the other ones, but please come back next week and we'll have more of a order to that call, and we'll probably institute something where everyone's going to get 2 minutes just to give everyone a chance to talk, and then we'll be implementing the raising of the hands and just all that to keep some order. Charles, is there anything you wanted to say for us to prepare for next week? Do you want us to do anything, or you're good? You're muted.
Charles.
Yeah, it's been a great call. I'm glad to be part of it. Looking forward to next week.
Charles, can you share your website, please?
Constitutionalgov.us.
Constitutionalgov.us. All right, with that, everyone, we'll see you all next week. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Lynn, for facilitating and orchestrating the call, ma'am. We thank you for your service. You do so much behind the scenes, and we very much appreciate it, ma'am.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye,
have
all.
a good night.
Good night.
Good night.